Full Metal Storm, Battle of the Machines. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 120, No Emotion. Liu Ruohan was not surprised by Luo Yan's attitude. She had already known Luo Yan a little bit during the trip to the Forbidden Area. She turned around without hesitation. Brother Luo Yan, want to make some extra money? Luo Yan stopped and closed his eyes. After struggling for a few seconds, he spoke clearly. How do I make money? In the distance, Yang Likai seemed to be cast under a spell. He was motionless. Make extra money? Goddess. My goddess. How did you know that Luo classmate likes this? Liu Ruohan smiled lightly. I want you to be my sparring partner. Every day. No, every week is fine. Take 1 to 2 hours every week. Practice combat skills with me. Luo Yan shook his head. I don't understand. Shouldn't you ask your own instructor for this kind of thing? Liu Ruohan lifted her lightly tied hair and smiled. It's different. Whether it's the teacher or other classmates. They are afraid of hurting me. No one will do it seriously. But classmate Luo, you are different. I felt this when you robbed my mecha last time. In your eyes. There is no distinction between classmates or genders. There is only a distinction between enemies and companions. I have obtained the special driving license. Next, the exploration corps should assign me tasks. I have to face behemoths and more life and death battles. I don't want to face all this without any preparation. So I hope that through practicing with you, I can find a little feeling of life and death battles. Of course. Liu Ruohan smiled and said, I won't take up your time in vain. I will pay you 100,000 work points for each training. What do you think? But you can't kill me directly or seriously injure me. Minor injuries are acceptable. Anyway, it can't affect my study and life. Luo Yan thought about it seriously. Training once a week. No killing, no serious injuries. Only minor injuries are acceptable. It's difficult. But, when Luo Yan was about to agree, a voice shouted, I don't agree. Yang Lixi hurried over. Said to Liu Ruohan. Student Liu, this is not allowed. Student Luo is different from others. You will get hurt. Besides, why do you want to be a mecha master? You student Yang. Liu Ruohan's face was covered with frost. The smile just now had disappeared. It seemed that Yang Lixi's words had exposed her reverse scale. She said unhappily, my life doesn't need you to point fingers. Liu Ruohan looked at Luo Yan decisively. What do you say? Okay. When does it start? Luo Yan nodded. Someone sent money to get beaten. Where can you find such a good thing? Luo Yan is short of money now. Although it is only 100,000 per week. But that is also money. After the mecha is upgraded, he will need money for many things. Not to mention 100,000. Luo Yan also wants to take over 10,000. Liu Ruohan's face looked better. Tomorrow afternoon. I'll come to you. Then she left. Yang Likai was so distressed that he couldn't breathe. Looking at Luo Yan, he smiled bitterly. Brother, don't use too much force then. I'm afraid she will feel pain. Luo Yan almost squeezed a question mark on his face. He didn't want to pay attention to him at first, but thinking that he would have to cooperate to make money later, he nodded and left. The next afternoon, Yang Likai came to Luo Yan's training hall early, but he was turned away. After all, it was a training session of 100,000. Liu Ruohan didn't want to be disturbed. Yang Likai squatted at the door with a disappointed look on his face. Zhang Heo whispered, Boss, there are so many good women in this world. How about we change one? I think Liu doesn't seem to be interested in you. Yang Lixi glared at him. You know shit. The harder it is to pursue, the more challenging it is. Besides, Liu's appearance and background are too suitable for me. It's hard to find another one like her. The fat man coughed dryly, but if things go on like this, I think Liu will fall into Luo's arms in 9 out of 10 cases. Boss, I just think it's not worth it. How long have you been pursuing her? Every time I see Liu, I ask her about her well-being, but she only responds to you with her HMM at most. Yang Lixi said without thinking. It's good to have a response. And don't you think that, after returning from the forbidden area this time, my relationship with Liu has become much closer? I believe that, as long as I persist, one day, she will be moved by me. Zhang Hao and the fat man exchanged glances. They both felt that their boss was hopeless. In the training hall, Liu Ruohan was wearing a tight outfit. It outlined her beautiful curves. She found that Liu Yan first looked at her chest, then her abdomen. His eyes went down along her belly button, and finally back to her neck. Liu Ruohan was a little short of breath and her face became much redder, because of his aggressive gaze. As for Liu Yan, her chest was full of flesh, and if he didn't kill her, the degree of injury would be limited, but it would still be indecent. As for the abdomen, if he didn't use a penetrating attack, there would be no danger to her life. The lower body was fine, but the neck was even worse. 100,000 work points were really not easy to earn. Let's start, Liu Ruohan said. Because it was training, and her main purpose was to experience the feeling of life and death. So she didn't use her Yuan Li. Liu Yan was the same. But as soon as Liu Ruohan shouted to start, he attacked head on. Those red eyes contained coldness. His expression was indifferent, like an emotionless killing machine. He rushed in front of Liu Ruohan. Liu Ruohan immediately felt a chill on her back. A chill ran down her spine and into her brain. She felt cold all over. The murderous aura in Liu Yan's eyes was too strong. She was slow to react because of the murderous aura. When she saw Liu Yan's shoulder swinging, Liu Ruohan made some moves. But it was too late. Bang! Liu Yan punched her in the lower abdomen. Liu Ruohan's face turned pale instantly. Her body flew up, drew an arc, and finally landed like a sandbag. At this time, she let out a scream. But the sound was only half vomited out. It turned into vomiting. She vomited out all the food she had eaten at noon. Liu Yan stood still. After a while, Liu Ruohan wiped the liquid from her eyes. She stood up, holding her lower abdomen. Come again. Liu Yan's expression changed slightly. He looked at Liu Ruohan with a respectful look. Outside the training hall, Yang Li put his ear to the door. He only heard continuous sounds from inside. Bang. Ah. Come again. Bang bang. Ah, continue. Bang bang bang. Woo, I can't do it anymore. I can't move. Let's stop here today. Hearing these voices, Yang Lixi felt as if his heart was cut by a knife. Student Luo, I told you to be gentler. Why are you using so much strength? Look at what happened to student Liu. Are you really a bloodless and tearless machine? You will die if you show mercy to women. Chapter 121 White Dragon Transformation. A week passed in a flash. During this week, Liu Yan beat Liu Ruohan again. Including the first time, he earned a total of 200,000 work points. During this period, Zheng came to the school and taught Liu Yan a derivative combat skill, bone crushing. 7 kills. In addition, Liu Yan also learned the number 10 mystical art from Wei Fenghua. Whether it was a duel with Wu Tijun or a battle with Liu Ruohan, this mystical art left a deep impression on Liu Yan. The Phantom Wolf has the ability to attack independently. It can play the role of harassment, cover, entanglement, and attracting attention. At critical moments, it can also be used to block gunfire. Among the mystical arts below number 10, it is very practical. Moreover, the effect of the mystical art will increase with the improvement of the level of the visualization art. Although Liu Yan did not intend to learn too many mystical arts and decided to use combat skills as his main means of combat, he still couldn't help but learn this mystical art. Finally, after this week, he has completed 50 pieces of bone tempering. The 4th level of viewing mountains and seas cultivation has been completed, and the progress has been pulled to about a quarter. Now, Liu Yan's Yuan Li is 221, and his ki and HP value has increased to 639. More than 200 Yuan Li is enough for Liu Yan to use about 10 combat skills or mystical arts in a battle. At least he can burst out the KO and wheel twice in a row. In addition to the information support provided by the Eye of True Suchness, no one at the same level will be Liu Yan's opponent. Even the primary great perfection is the same. That day, after the theoretical class, Liu Yan received a text message from Ziguang Iao. The upgrade of White Dragon was completed. He immediately rushed to the mecha upgrade warehouse. In the huge warehouse, Ziguangao was holding a loudspeaker and directing the students to do the final inspection. Give me the data of the foot armor. What about the test results of the omnidirectional gyroscope? Hurry up. What's the progress of the self-inspection of the outer armor? The empathy system is undergoing the final debugging. Zengshan came here with Luoyan. Seeing this upgrade warehouse, he couldn't help but sigh. I really hope I can become a mecha master soon, and then bring the King Kong here for an upgrade. Luoyan glanced at him, and then walked towards the direction of the air bridge. Ziguangao saw him, and waved his hand, signaling Luoyan to come up. The two came to the air bridge. Ziguangao looked at the work progress on the tablet computer. Then he shouted, "Okay, get out of the way. Turn on all the lights for me." Immediately, the lights in the warehouse were all turned on. It was like daylight. Under the bright lights, Luoyan saw the White Dragon. Even though he had made preparations, but when he saw the White Dragon at this moment, he couldn't help but be deeply shocked by this new mecha. The overall shape of the White Dragon remained unchanged, but after replacing the tortoise armor, the body felt much thicker. It still uses white paint, but now the outer armor of the machine has more scale-like patterns. It's as if the machine is covered with dragon scales. On the left side of the machine, there is a heavy mortar on the shoulder, and the thick gun body is daunting. The shape of the armor on the chest has changed, vaguely showing the appearance of a dragon head. The dragon head has a big mouth, and the main engine of the mecha is inside. In addition, the head of the mecha also has a helmet-shaped outer armor. In the center of the eyebrows of the helmet, there is a dark green diamond crystal. There are lines extending upward, and to the left and right sides. Finally, the mecha holds a long sword in both hands. The long sword is dark blue, and there are natural lines formed by layers of forging. The length of the blade alone is more than 40 meters. It looks very sharp. Full of determination, Ziao walked over and pointed to the upgraded White Dragon. Just as you can see, the outer armor of the machine has been completely replaced with spiral tortoise armor, which meets your requirements for thick armor. Did you see the crystals and patterns on the top of the machine? That is the supercore matrix, which is equipped with the spiral tortoise core. You are lucky. The basic characteristic of the matrix is thick armor. When it is activated, it will form a protective barrier on the surface of the outer armor of the machine. Coupled with your own practice of viewing mountains and seas, I think even high-level behemoths will find it difficult to break your defense in a short period of time. But don't be careless. If you really encounter a high-level behemoth, my advice is to run away. Those things are not something you can deal with for the time being. They will not be stupid enough to confront you head-on. In addition, some behemoths have the ability to bypass defenses or even the machine body and affect the mecha master. So don't think you are really invincible. Sometimes, some low-level and mid-level behemoths can also cause the mecha master to capsize. After speaking, Ziguangao pointed at the heavy artillery on the shoulder of the mecha. Hyperion heavy mortar, launch ballistic missiles. The machine has 4 rounds, which means you have to refill them after you finish firing. The long sword Pyojun is a heavy weapon. It has the armor breaking attribute and is sharp enough. Also, it is very strong, resistant to high temperatures and cold, and not easily damaged. Although there is no special mechanism, simple things often mean purity. You will soon find that it is more useful than those fancy heavy weapons. Finally, the built-in energy furnace Mad Dragon Heart Maximum has a huge energy output and can fully drive the current White Dragon. Its full power output mode can put the mecha into a runaway state. In this state, the function will be tripled, but it can only last for 15 seconds. After the effect ends, there will be no energy left. It's up to you how to use it. Luoyan was speechless for a long time. After upgrading to an advanced machine, White Dragon has been strengthened a lot more than before. This is the combat power accumulated by tens of millions of work points and nearly 2,000 credits. Thinking of this, Luoyan's desire to make money suddenly became hot. Money is such a good thing. Zengshan couldn't stop smiling. This modified and upgraded machine is countless times stronger than the primary machine. Even his mecha King Kong, which is known for its defense, may not last a few rounds facing the current White Dragon. and a light mecha likely Behemoths, if Liu Yan catches the opportunity, can be killed in one blow. So powerful. Zheng Shan said with longing. I also want to upgrade the King Kong. After hearing that, Ziguangao said with a smile. Welcome, welcome. If you have 10 million work points and 2000 credits, I can also help you upgrade a mecha with similar performance. How much? Zheng Shan jumped up immediately. 10 million work points? 2000 credits? Credits are fine. 10 million work points. If I have 10 million work points, why would I be a mecha master? Wouldn't it be nice if I could just go home and enjoy the flowers? Chapter 122 Class 3 Team 4. Handing over the mecha. Leaving the warehouse. Liu Yan's cell phone rang. A call came in. It was Zheng. Zheng's words were very brief. Has your mecha been upgraded? Then come to the core headquarters this afternoon to report. I'll ask Xiaoli to pick you up. Next, you will be in the reserve. When you receive the order to attack, you must act immediately. Liu Yang nodded and said, okay. The phone hung up. Zheng Shan whispered beside him, it's Captain D's call. Liu Yang put away his phone and nodded. Zheng Shan looked envious. I'm sure you will be asked to report to the core headquarters, right? Your mecha has been upgraded recently, so I'm notifying you now. I heard that Liu Ruohan and Chending Sheng from the 2nd grade have already reported. Old Luo, you are in the reserve now, and enjoy the 3rd level treatment. If you perform well, and are promoted to core squad leader, you can enjoy the 2nd level treatment. I hope I can catch up with you. Zheng Shan laughed dryly twice. Liu Yan quickened his pace. He was going to find Wei Fenghe. He took 2 steps. He turned around and said, come on. Zheng Shan was stunned for a moment. Then he grinned and nodded heavily. In the afternoon, at the headquarters of the Surface Exploration Corps, the car stopped at the gate. Liu Yan got out of the car. On the big square, there stood a mecha statue. At the bottom of the statue, there were chariots and soldiers. This statue composed of chariots, soldiers and mechas represented the Exploration Corps. This way, Xiaoli reminded. He looked at Liu Yan and felt a little emotional. He sent Liu Yan to the academy. Unexpectedly, more than 3 months later, he sent him to the core headquarters again. Xiaoli thought to himself. The captain's vision was indeed correct. He was sincerely happy for Liu Yan's growth. However, not everyone thought like Xiaoli. So when he took Liu Yan into the headquarters hall, he whispered a reminder. You are the youngest reserve pilot in the corps. There will definitely be people who are jealous and will verbally attack you. But the captain is watching you. Don't worry too much. Liu Yan nodded. As soon as he entered the hall, he noticed that people coming and going were looking at him. All kinds of meaningful looks fell on Liu Yan. At this moment, Liu Yan suddenly felt a strong sense of oppression. Liu Yan's hair stood up, and his breathing became heavy. His body was slightly bent, as if he could pounce at any time. But this feeling came and went quickly. Then he heard Xiaoli say, look, the chief of staff is also paying attention to you. Liu Yan was about to look. Xiaoli reminded him, don't look, walk quickly. Then he walked and said, although the chief of staff is quite serious, he is a good person. Although he opposes the commander's excessive exploration of the surface, he never slacks off when he needs to contribute. Most of the neutrals in the city have this attitude. Taking the elevator, they arrived at the 5th floor. Liu Yan originally thought that Xiaoli would take him to see Zheng, or at least to see Liang Jian. As a result, Xiaoli took him to the office of the squad leader of the 3rd squad of the corps. Go in. The captain has assigned you to the 3rd class, and your other 2 classmates are in the 2nd and 1st classes. Maybe we'll go on missions together in the future. Liu Yan nodded, took a deep breath, and pushed open the door. When he saw the office clearly, Liu Yan wondered if Xiaoli had taken the wrong path. In this office, the only thing that could be called office supplies was probably a table and a computer. In other places, there were treadmills, spinning bikes, dumbbells, hand grippers, parallel bars, and a comprehensive trainer. At this time, a man on the parallel bars was doing pull-ups. Although it was just a simple movement, if lead blocks were tied around the waist and limbs, it would be known that this movement was not simple to do. Probably hearing the door open, the man shouted, wait a minute. After completing a set of movements, he jumped down, turned around, and put his arms on his waist, showing off his full muscle lines. At the same time, the scars on his body were also shown. The man had a crew cut, thick eyebrows and big eyes, and was sweating all over. He looked Luo Yan up and down. Then he said loudly, "My name is Chang Zhang, squad leader of the 3rd Squad of the Exploration Corps. He is also your direct superior. Tell me your name, recruit." Luo Yan gave his name. Chang Zhang's voice doubled. "Louder, I can't hear you." Luo Yan could only shout loudly, "My name is Luo Yan, sir." Chang Zhang then said, "Okay, remember this volume. Answer questions louder next time. Also, don't call me sir. Call me squad leader." Luo Yan nodded. "Can't nod, answer loudly." Luo Yan sighed in his heart. He answered loudly, "Yes, squad leader." Chang Zhang then forced a smile. Then he asked, "New recruit, do you like fitness?" Luo Yan's mouth twitched slightly, and he answered loudly, "Squad leader, I have to go to class every day, practice combat skills, and I don't have time to exercise." Chang Zhang reached out and touched his head. "Really? What a pity. It seems we have no common topics." He turned around and picked up a report. He glanced at it. Then he said, "Go and report to Yan Wenbo, the captain of the 4th Squad of the 3rd Squad. You are now assigned to their squad. Hurry up, get moving. They just happen to have a mission this afternoon. You can go on a mission with them. Your mecha has been transferred here. In the future, unless you want to go out yourself, the mecha will be parked in the core base." Luo Yan nodded, forced himself to raise his voice and said, "Excuse me, where is Captain Yan Wenbo's office?" Chang Zhang answered with full energy, "The squad leader has no office, only a squad lounge. As for where it is, you can find it yourself. This is also a way to quickly integrate into the squad and the corps." Luo Yan had no choice but to nod. He walked out of the office. Luo Yan first glanced at the wall. He couldn't find the guide map. He could only stop people in the passage to ask. It took him 10 minutes. He finally found the lounge of the 4th team. Luo Yan pushed open the door. There were 3 people sitting or standing in a room similar to the players' lounge. 2 men and 1 woman. Sitting on the bench was a quiet man wearing gold-rimmed glasses and reading a book. Another man standing at the window had long silver hair, which was rare. He turned around, and his black eyes flashed with a questioning light. Finally, there was the woman. She didn't look very young. With short hair and sharp eyes, she looked like a man. But she had long breasts and legs, and her figure was not slender, but slightly strong. Luo Yan coughed dryly and said, "I'm looking for Captain Yan Wenbo." The woman turned her head away first, opened the cabinet, and took off her coat directly. Under the coat, there was no other clothes, only a set of underwear. She quickly took off all her clothes, leaving only her underwear, and then took out the combat uniform from the cabinet and put it on. She didn't care that there were 3 men here. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 123, Stay with me till the end. The man sitting on the bench reading a book stood up with a gentle smile. "You must be Luo, right? Come in. You are so impressive. We also watched that trial. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, it would be hard to believe that you are just a freshman." He raised his glasses. "Look at me. I even forgot to introduce myself. My name is Kang Shun. This is Dugu Changxin." Kang Shun pointed at the man with long silver hair. He turned back and looked at the woman who was wearing combat uniforms. "The one behind is Liu Yan. Sister Yan is the most senior in our team. Sister Yan, next time you should go to the locker room to change your clothes." Liu Yan was pulling up her combat uniforms, and the tight clothes highlighted the greatness of her chest. She glanced at Kang Shun and said, "What are you afraid of? Are you afraid that I will eat you? Don't worry, you skinny guys. I don't like you. I don't feel anything when I work. I don't want it." Kang Shun kept coughing and said to Luo Yan awkwardly, "Sister Yan always speaks directly. Ahem. You'll get used to it slowly." The silver-haired man with a strange name, Dubu, snorted and said, "It's better not to get used to it. The guys who go through the back door are all stuffed into our fourth team. What do you think we are, a garbage recycling station?" He was very depressed, and his face was gloomy. He walked past Luo Yan forcefully, and deliberately bumped into him. Luo Yan closed his eyes slightly. He stood there, not moving at all. Bang! The two collided. Dugu Changxin didn't retreat, but he didn't knock Luo Yan down either. "Make way, don't stand at the door like a log." Luo Yan raised his head. He glanced at Dugu Changxin's neck. Dugu Changxin's pupils suddenly contracted. "What are you doing? Do you want to fight?" Luo Yan looked at him straight and said simply, "Next time, definitely." What he meant was that if Dugu Changxin provoked him again next time, he would definitely fight. What Luo Yan didn't say was that if he really fought, there might be bloodshed and death. He knew that he was a newcomer, but who stipulated that newcomers must be bullied by veterans? If you don't accept it, just fight. There's nothing to say about this. In the lounge, Liu Yan snorted and licked her lower lip with her tongue. "This kid is quite interesting. It's just that he's too young. I don't eat young grass." Kang Shun hurriedly stepped forward and said, "We will be in the same team in the future. Talk it over. Don't hurt the harmony." Dugu Changxin glared at Kang Shun. Hypocrisy. Then he walked sideways through the door and left. Kang Shun smiled helplessly. He is just like that. Actually, I understand him. He can get to where he is today by relying on his own 2 feet, step by step. I asked my family for help, and you were appointed by Captain D. It's normal for Changxin to feel uncomfortable. Student Luo, don't take it to heart. The captain should be back soon. Suddenly, he stood up straight. "Captain." Luo Yan turned around. Only then did he see a man standing behind him. He was about 30 years old. He looked handsome, but his face was pale. There was a dark circle around his eyes, and his body was thin. He didn't look like he was in good health. "Are you the new recruit assigned to our team? Not bad. You dared to touch Changxin's powder keg on the first day of reporting. I'm optimistic about you." Yan Wenbo patted Luo Yan's arm. "Are you wearing combat uniforms? If not, change clothes and then set off. We'll talk about the specific mission on the way." Luo Yan was about to respond. Yan Wenbo's face changed, and he said, "You go to the attack station and wait. I'm going to the toilet. I'll be there later." Then he hurried away. In the lounge, Liu Yan, who had big breasts and long legs, came out. "I feel sorry for that guy's wife. Probably she has never experienced satisfaction." She shook her head and left. Luo Yan had no expression on his face. Kang Shun laughed dryly and said, "Don't listen to Sister Yan's nonsense. The captain actually has a bad prostate, not kidney deficiency or other problems." Luo Yan glanced at him. He thought that your explanation was really redundant. On the way to the attack station, Kang Shun roughly explained the structure of the exploration corps. The corps is divided into several major departments: the mecha department, the strategy department, the logistics department, and the maintenance department. Luo Yan and his mecha divisions on the front line naturally belong to the mecha department. The mecha department has 3 squads. Each squad has 5 to 6 teams. There are about 70 mecha divisions in service, but there are only 58 mechs that can fight at present. Of course, this does not include the reserve forces such as Luo Yan. There are many uncertain factors for reserve pilots, so they are not included in the statistics. Today should be a regular mission. I looked at the mission column. It's just a level 6 mission. Kang Shun patiently introduced. The mission level and level treatment are the same. Level 6 is the lowest level, usually low risk work such as escorting supplies, protecting maintenance teams or surface inspections. Of course, if you encounter a behemoth in the process, the corresponding mission difficulty assessment will be increased according to the level of the behemoth. The reward will be calculated based on performance afterwards. Luo Yan listened to it in his heart, took note, and asked, "What is the highest level of mission?" "Level 1. Kang Shun smiled and said, "No. Above level 1 is the special level, and above the special level, there is the doomsday level. Usually, the mission that concerns the safety of a dungeon is a level 1 mission. The special level is related to several dungeons. As for the doomsday, you should be able to guess it. Luo Yan looked solemn. Of course he could guess it. The so-called doomsday level is a mission that is sure to die, and there is no return. And it concerns the survival of mankind. Kang Shun smiled and said, "Don't worry, our underground city has not issued any level 1 missions. Even the threat of the high-level behemoth last time was only a level 3 mission. Don't worry too much." As he said that, they arrived at the attack point. At the attack point, Dugu Changxin closed his eyes and pretended to be asleep. Liu Yan was playing with a dagger. After the Captain Yan Wenbo arrived, the Exploration Corps, the 3rd squad and the 4th team, went out. Because it was not an emergency attack mission, Luo Yan and his team did not use the attack skylight. Instead, they came to the surface in a mecha carrier. On the way, Yan Wenbo announced the content of the mission. This is a security mission. The 3rd squad and the 4th team must ensure the safety of the staff in the Great Lakes area when debugging the light collection device. After the captain announced this mission, Dugu Changxin said dissatisfiedly, "These escort missions can be completed by the college students. Why assign these pediatric tasks to us?" After speaking, he opened one eye and glanced at Luo Yan. It seems that the captain is taking good care of someone. Luo Yan looked ahead. Ignoring him, Dugu Changxin raised his lips slightly, thinking that this boy is very patient. But at this moment, he heard Luo Yan say, "I said it. Next time. Definitely." Then, mech combat or martial arts competition. You choose one. Death competition is fine. I will accompany you to the end. The temperature in the carriage suddenly dropped to freezing point. Chapter 124. Trampling Mountains and Rivers. Luo Yan is a man of credibility. He is very responsible for what he said. Since he said next time, for sure, there is no reason for him to tolerate Dugu Changxin's provocation again. Moreover, he has used the Eye of Truth to confirm that Dugu Changxin's only is higher than his, but not much. The blood value is about the same. Judging from this, the opponent's visualization skill should be at the intermediate level. He is not an unbeatable opponent. Luo Yan can't find any reason to tolerate it. In the car, Dugu Changxin's face suddenly became extremely ugly. Luo Yan, a new recruit, dared to confront him. This really surprised him. At the same time, he was more certain that Luo Yan dared to be so arrogant because someone was backing him up. Thinking of himself, he studied hard in the academy and went through countless efforts and suffered so much before he became a mecha master. But this Luo, just because he was favored by the team leader, joined the team as easily as Kang Shun. He refused to accept it. He refused to accept it. Dugu Changxin stood up and said coldly, "Okay, the mission is over. Let's use the mecha to learn from each other." Kang Shun stood up and tried to smooth things over. Yan Wenbo, who was pale, pulled him. He smiled. "It's okay, men. Get to know each other through fists. It's normal." Liu Yan, with short hair, looked at the sky above the carriage, childish. Asterisk 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 today's mission. It went smoothly until the light collecting device was debugged. No giant beast appeared. In the evening, the setting sun pulled the shadows of all things into a lonely shape. Dugu Changxin drove his mecha Fidian and stood on the ground. Fidian has a mighty shape, and the head shape is unique, as if wearing a helmet, with a sharp spear decoration on it, decorated with red tassels, like an ancient warrior. Dugu Changxin is good at using a spear, and the mecha is also the same. He holds a silver spear in his hand. The tip of the spear is blazing white, and the spear body has a coiled dragon carving, named Langdon. This mech held a gun in one hand, standing on the ground like this, with an invincible momentum. On the other side, White Dragon also came out of the mech carrier. After the upgrade and transformation, the White Dragon has a majestic body. Because it uses the tortoise armor, it also has a vague heavy meaning. When he saw the heavy mortar behind the mech and the pungent longsword in his hand, Yan Wenbo took out a bottle of medicinal wine and took a sip and said with a smile, "Wow, a freshman actually upgraded the body to this level. This is already a captain level body. How much money did you make?" Kang Shun whispered, "Could it be sponsored by the captain?" Yan Wenbo snorted and said, "The captain would not do such a thing. Besides, the captain doesn't have that much spare money." Bang. White Dragon landed with a sound and walked to the opposite side of Fidian. The two mechs 1,800 meters apart, facing each other from a distance. Yan Wenbo picked up a loudspeaker and said, "Fight, but stop when it's enough. Don't kill anyone. If there's no problem, then let's start." With the word start, Fidian took the lead in launching the attack. The energy reactor was running at full power. The main engine emitted a dazzling light. The mecha strode forward. Under the afterglow of the setting sun, it was like a flash of lightning. In a blink of an eye, it arrived in front of Beilong. At this time, the dark green crystal on Beilong's forehead lit up. The lines of the hypernuclear matrix lit up. Fidian already held the long spear dragon gallbladder in his hand, stabbing out a series of spear shadows like meteors. It tightly covered Beilong's head and chest. It was Dugu Changxin's combat skill, Gun Meteor. At this time, a barrier composed of diamond-shaped light spots appeared around the Beilong mecha. The thickness of this barrier was so amazing that the body inside it looked a little blurry. Fidian's attack fell on this thick barrier. It stirred up a little ripple, but it couldn't break through the barrier. This is the characteristic of the spinning turtle, thick armor. Yan Wenbo's mouth twitched. Then he laughed and said, "Changxin is finished. It seems that Xiao Luo's mecha is taking the high defense route. The basic characteristic of this supercore matrix is thick armor. The armor of the body. I think it is also biased towards defense. I heard that Xiao Luo is still practicing observing mountains and seas, which is also biased towards the basics, with a slow growth rate, but it can fight and withstand. Visualization, outer armor and matrix are all biased towards defense. Although Changxin's Dragon Gall has the armor breaking attribute, but it is also difficult to break through the 3 layers of defense." As if confirming the captain's conclusion, the texture of the mountain rock appeared on the outer armor of the white dragon. The mecha rose a bright yellow Yuanli light, forming a vague shadow of mountains. In this way, the defense of the white dragon has been improved to an astonishing level. Dugu Changxin seemed to know it too. If the trump card is not used, ordinary fighting skills are just tickling Luo Yan. So Fenidan suddenly retreated, pulling the distance. Suddenly, the mecha also rose up with Yuanli light, and vaguely turned into a phantom of a green dragon. This phantom of the green dragon entangled the spear Langdon. Fenidan's momentum suddenly became fierce. Kang Shun was startled and looked at the captain. "Captain, aren't you going to stop him? That's the opening move of Fixing, right? That's not a joke." Yan Wenbo smiled and said, "Don't worry, Changxin has confidence. You see that his phantom of the green dragon is only wrapped around the spear body, not condensed on the spear blade. I know he didn't burst out with all his strength." At this time, Fenidan opened his legs, bent his right arm, and made a throwing motion. He suddenly threw the spear into the air. The spear broke through the air, and the phantom of the green dragon on the spear opened its mouth and roared silently. It was as if it was going to survive the catastrophe and turn into a dragon. After reaching the highest point, the dragon gallbladder suddenly fell down, with the tip of the spear pointing directly at the white dragon. It smashed down like a meteorite. In a blink of an eye, it had hit the outermost energy barrier of the white dragon's body. The energy barrier suddenly became extremely clear. The thick energy layer quickly sank and was pierced by the dragon gallbladder. After a few breaths, the energy layer suddenly shattered, exploded into a surging flame, and disappeared without a trace. But the green dragon phantom wrapped around the dragon gallbladder spear also disappeared. Then the spear hit the phantom of the thousand mountains. The phantom of Luo Yan's thousands of layers of mountain shook for a while, and it seemed to dissipate. But it still held on. In the end, the dragon gallbladder ran out of power, and didn't even touch the outer armor of the body. It fell to the ground, pressing the ground to sag, and squeeze out cracks. In the cab, Dugu Changxin's mind was blank. He took out his trump card, although he didn't use all his strength. But he didn't even touch the opponent's mecha. This is too ridiculous. At the same time, the Yuanli rising from the body of the white dragon suddenly exploded. Looking at the light gas that gushed out like a volcanic eruption, Yan Wenbo whispered, "KO and wheel." He was right. Luo Yan's Yuanli rushed into the acupuncture points and used secret methods. In exchange for explosive power, the mecha engine spewed hot smoke. The body leaned forward. The body rushed out suddenly. With the momentum of crushing mountains and rivers, it rushed towards the Fidian. Chapter 125, Fierce Competition. Under the setting sun, the mecha was like a giant chasing the sun, and suddenly came to the front of Fidian. In the cockpit, Xing came back to his senses. In the panoramic window, he saw the enemy armor cutting into his defense range. He was startled. He wondered how Luoyan could move so fast. Normally, a heavily armored body like White Dragon could not run so fast. It was able to cut into the opponent's defense range in the blink of an eye. In addition to the KO and wheel, to increase the explosive power, it was also, because of the energy furnace and engine, that White Dragon had just replaced. If the rampage mode of Mad Dragon Heart Marks was turned on, the speed of the mecha could be even faster. Of course, Xing didn't know all this. He only knew that White Dragon was in front of him, but his dragon gallbladder fell in the distance. Xing immediately retreated. He wanted to keep a distance, bypass White Dragon, get weapons, and then regroup. But Luoyan didn't intend to let him go. The moment he got close, the long sword Pogent swept across, turning into a streak of lightning, as if it was going to cut Changjian's mecha in two. But when it was about to hit the mecha, Luoyan turned the long sword and slapped the body of Fidian with the sword. Fidian was beaten back again and again. He stepped back 7 or 8 steps before stopping. Then, a piece of armor on his chest fell off. It hit the ground with a bang, making a big hole. Xing sat in the cabin a daze. After a long time, he gritted his teeth and spat out 3 words: "I lost." On the ground, Yan Wenbo stood up and clapped his hands, saying, "Finally, we can go back. Hurry up, hurry up. My wife is waiting for me to go home for dinner." Back to the core headquarters, Luoyan left first. Xing was hit hard, sitting on a bench in the lounge with his head down. Suddenly, he felt someone pressing his shoulders. He raised his head. It was the captain Yan Wenbo. The captain, who looked pale and sick, chuckled and said, "Don't be sad. You lost this time not because of experience, strength or technology. You lost because of the performance of the machine. Luo's machine has obviously been upgraded. It can be seen that it is obviously equipped with a supercore matrix. In addition, the armor of the machine is not simple. Judging from the texture, it should be a special armor with behemoth materials. Such heavy armor can run very fast, and the power is very strong. The energy furnace and engine are probably high-end products. To put it simply, that is an advanced machine, at the same level as my Xiuhu. Your Fidian is at best an intermediate machine. It's not because of the upgraded function, but because it uses the heavy weapon London and installs a set of supercore matrix. So in terms of function, it is no match for the White Dragon. After listening to the captain's analysis, Xing felt better. Yan Wenbo glanced at him and said, "But if you think that Luo's machine can be improved to the current level because of the captain's relationship, then you really lose. And the kind that will never be able to turn over in your life." The silver-haired man heard this. His whole body shook violently. Then he slapped his cheeks with both hands. He stood up and said, "I'm fine, Captain." His eyes became calm and peaceful. There was no ripples. Yan Wenbo nodded. Then his expression changed. "No more talking. I'm going to the toilet first." After saying that, he ran away in a hurry. A month passed in a blink of an eye. On this day, Luoyan and Yang Leke left school together. Luoyan joined Yang Leke's company as a shareholder. Yang Leke finally got the qualifications to go to the forbidden area to collect herbs. After a circle of procedures, they can finally set off today. Since Luoyan got a special driver's license, he doesn't have to go to class every day. He just needs to pass the final assessment smoothly. He asked Wei Fenghua for a 2-week vacation. Then he set off with Yang Leke. In the car, Yang Leke asked casually, "Student Luo, what level have you cultivated to?" "Ha, I broke through yesterday. Now it's the 5th level." Luoyan did not respond, but he felt incredible in his heart. Yang Leke is already a sophomore. He only broke through yesterday and was promoted to the 5th level. This is really incredible. Just like this guy said, he is really just waiting to die. As for Luoyan himself, after a month, he has tempered more than 100 bones. In another month or two, he should be able to break through. In addition, the forbidden area they are going to this time is the Misty Canyon. Luo Yan plans to take the opportunity to cultivate in the cave where the Jiuying flower grows, while in the forbidden area, the density of yuan li there is amazing. It should be able to speed up his cultivation. After leaving the underground city, the two met up with the convoy. 2 armored vehicles led the way. Behind them was the mecha carrier carrying the white dragon. Then there were 4 off-road escort vehicles and a material truck. Yang Lixi and Luo Yan transferred to the mecha carrier. In this way, if there is any emergency on the road, Luo Yan can attack immediately. In the car, Yang Lixi handed a tablet to Luo Yan. We will go to the Langquan base to rest first. This base is hosted by the Huanglang Company. In addition to our Guangling City, Qingyang City and Changping City also have dealings with the Langquan base. So there will be people and companies from other cities in the base. Because the Misty Canyon produces most of the raw materials for medicine such as Jiuying flower, the competition in the herb picking industry is very fierce. I also spent a lot of effort to get the mining rights here. It cost me a lot of money to take care of all these things. As he said, Yang Lixi glanced at Luo Yan. He hoped to see some sympathy on Luo Yan's face. But Luo Yan turned a deaf ear and didn't care about these things at all. 2 days later, the convoy arrived near the Misty Canyon. When heading to the base along the road, suddenly, a row of tanks appeared in front of the road. The muzzles of the guns and guns on the tanks were all pointed at Yang Lixi's convoy. Yang Lixi frowned, picked up the communicator, and asked the convoy to stop. Then he turned on the radio, reported his name, and the passcode. At this time, a strong man and a dozen soldiers came over from the convoy. Yang Lixi snorted, stood up and said, "Student Luo, wait a moment. I'll take care of it." He opened the door and came to the front of the team. With his hands on his waist, he looked at the men who were coming and shouted, "Don't your ears work well?" I said, "We are from Hanli Pharmaceutical Company. We have obtained the pass for Langquan base. Move the car away quickly, don't waste my time. PS. The characters and the extras are basically on the stage. Remember to claim them." Then, the little newbie asks for votes. Degrees 3 degrees, chapter 126. No one left alive. If this was in Guangling City, seeing the chariots, and mecha carriers behind Yang Lixi, plus his identity, the people would have dispersed long ago. But on the surface, here, these men not only did not disperse, but instead put on contemptuous smiles. The sturdy man in the lead pointed to the ground and said, "Young master, you probably don't know. This road was destroyed by a giant beast not long ago. It was paved by our brothers in the Hiteo company who worked day and night and overtime. Why, you plan to use it for free?" Yang Lixi finally heard that they were going to charge a toll. He said with a wealthy look, okay, tell me how much you want. Don't delay my work." The sturdy man held out 5 fingers. 5 million work points. We have bank accounts in Guangling, Qingyang and Changping. We support electronic transfer. Or, when you leave, you can hand over half of the raw materials. Yang Lixi thought he had heard it wrong. How much? 5 million work points? Or half of the raw materials? Why don't you rob? That day in the forbidden area, the mecha was robbed by Luo Yan. It only cost 5 million work points to redeem it. Now I want to cross the road. I have to pay 5 million. This is not robbery. The sturdy man shouted, "Either hand it over or get out. Why are you talking so much nonsense?" Yang Lixi sneered, "I think you are blind. Believe it or not, I will crush you to death with a mecha." The sturdy man disagreed. "Mecha, we have them too. 5. I'll tell you the truth. Even the Huanglang company doesn't dare to interfere in our affairs. I advise you to be sensible. Besides, you have already annoyed me. Even if you want to turn around now, don't leave without 5 million. The big man's voice was not small. The car windows were also open. So Luo Yan heard every word he said clearly. But he did not act. Because Yang Lixi said he would handle it. Luo Yan was trying to integrate into the group. And to integrate into the group, the first thing is to trust his companions. Outside the car, Yang Lixi was a little anxious. He didn't expect these people to have 5 mechs. No wonder they dared to block the road and collect tolls. Yang Lixi couldn't help but look back at Luo Yan. He hoped to see Luo Yan express his opinion, but he saw Luo Yan sitting upright in the car. He nodded at him. He looked like he believed he could handle it. Yang Lixi suddenly wanted to slap himself. What was he doing just now? He should have brought the person in the car down with him. There was no other way. Yang Lixi had to bite the bullet and said, "Do you know who I am? Guangling City, the director of the construction bureau is my father. If you dare to touch a hair on my head, watch out for your heads." The sturdy man laughed. "If your father is the army commander, we'd have to think about it. What can a construction director do? Come to build bridges and roads for us?" He suddenly pulled Yang Lixi over, strangled Yang Lixi's neck with his arm, and took out an automatic pistol to point at Yang Lixi's head. The sturdy man exhaled a breath of cigarette smoke and said, "Young master, take out your bank card obediently. We only want money, not your life. After the money arrives, go home and cry to your master. Remember, the surface is not a place for you young masters to travel around. Don't think you can run around just because you have a mecha." The guards of Yang Lix's company saw that their boss fell into the hands of others. They quickly raised their guns and pointed them at the opposite side, demanding that they release him. The people of the Hiteo company were not afraid at all. They confronted each other with guns raised. Yang Lix was so anxious that he was sweating profusely. Seeing that Luo Yan was still sitting in the cab, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. Then he kept giving eyes to Luo Yan, indicating Luo Yan to save him. Luo Yan thought about it. He communicated with the mecha first. Then he jumped off the carrier and walked towards the sturdy man. The sturdy man saw Luo Yan coming over and shouted, "Don't move." Luo Yan looked at the gun he had pointed at Yang Lix's head and stopped. He put his hands behind his back and said to Yang Lixi, "Give him the card." Yang Lixi was stunned. The sturdy man chuckled and said, "Your friend is the best. Quick, take out the bank card." Yang Lixi had no choice but to take out a black bank card. The sturdy man turned around and shouted, "Bring the card reader here. It must be from Guangling City." The moment he turned around, Luo Yan rushed forward. The big man shouted angrily, "You dare," and was about to shoot. Suddenly, his hand lost control, pointed to the ground. Bang! The shot hit the ground. A bullet hole was made on the ground in front of Yang Lix's feet. The big man saw it. At some point, a black illusory rope was wrapped around his arm. It was it that pulled his hand down. The rope stretched all the way to Luo Yan. Number 1 mystical art, black rope. When Luo Yan put his hands behind his back just now, he had quietly formed a seal to prepare for the release of the black rope. As soon as the pistol was moved away, Yang Lixi screamed. The Yuanli burst out and knocked the big man to the ground. After all, he had practiced visualization. His physical fitness was not comparable to that of ordinary soldiers. Even though this big man was tall and strong, he could not withstand Yang Lix's throw. The big man fell and saw stars. When he came to his senses, a sword blade covered with dark blue lines had stabbed into his face and broke out from the back of his head. Luo Yan stabbed the man to death with a sword. Then he pulled out the splitting star and swept it towards the dozen or so soldiers of the Black Wave Company behind him. The long sword split into countless fragments, whistling through these soldiers, cutting off their rifles, making blood jump from their necks, and splitting their heads. The meteor whizzed past. A dozen soldiers fell down almost one after another. It was not until then that the people in the tanks behind reacted. They shouted and cursed. They were about to open fire and blow Luo Yan and Yang Lixi into pieces. Suddenly, a huge figure sat up in the mecha carrier at the back. Then a very penetrating gunshot rang out. Bang, 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 bang. The sound of gunfire shook the earth. One by one, the tanks of the Black Wave Company were thrown away, smashed, and exploded. The people inside were either blown to pieces, or their bodies were on fire and flew out, and when they fell to the ground, they were unable to move. White Dragon raised his rifle and swept across. The bombardment was comparable to that of a naval gun, and these dozen tanks were easily turned into scrap metal. He scanned with the eye of true suchness. After confirming that there was no biological grey light, Luo Yan let the mecha lie back in the car and lifted the empathy. Then he returned to the car without looking back. He closed his eyes and waited for the convoy to set off again. Yang Lixi stared at the messy scene in front of him in a daze. It took less than 10 seconds. The soldiers of the Black Wave Company and more than a dozen tanks were defeated by Luo Yan alone. Moreover, not a single one was left alive. Yang Lixi's Adam's apple slid. This was the first time he experienced Luo Yan's cruelty. Chapter 127. Fanning the Flames. Back in the car, Yang Lixi just sat down when he heard Luo Yan say, "Let your people prepare." Yang Lixi looked at Luo Yan in a daze. Luo Yan said calmly, "Heavy Tao Company must have accomplices in the base. I don't want to get into trouble in the forbidden area. Then we can only." Luo Yan made a beheading gesture. Yang Lixi's heart skipped a beat. This was completely different from what he had imagined before he set out. He had never thought that he would encounter the Heavy Tao Company here, and he had never thought that it would become such a big fuss. But soon, he adjusted his mentality and nodded vigorously. However, Yang Lixi said, "I'm afraid we can't do it in the base. You can do whatever you want outside the base. But if you kill someone in the base, it will attract interference from the base. And this time, we are not going out as college students. If something really happens, they won't let us go." Luo Yan frowned. He felt the importance of background. In Guangling City, at the Falcon base, he had the protection of Xing and the college. It is more convenient to act. Now that I have lost these backgrounds, I can only rely on myself when I reach the surface. Now, it is obvious that my strength is still a little insufficient. At least I can't be an enemy of the entire base. Luo Yan looked at his hands. He secretly made up his mind. Before returning to the academy, his strength must be improved to a higher level. At this time, the convoy set off. Yang Lixi said again, "Although we can't do anything to the people of Heavy Tao in the base, but I think many people hate Heavy Tao to the core. Don't think that Lanquan base can stay out of this matter. After arriving at the base, I will walk around, incite public opinion, and put pressure on the base to let them drive Heavy Tao out. As long as the people of Heavy Tao leave the base, everything will be easy." Luo Yan glanced at Yang Lixi. He thought his idea was good. He nodded. "Let's do it." Not long after, the convoy arrived at the Lanquan base. Probably because there are many medicinal materials in the Misty Canyon. Therefore, the Lanquan base is much more prosperous than the Falcon base. Although there are also a large number of sheds and iron houses here, there are also many high-rise buildings. In addition, the place where the Lanquan base is located was originally a small city. Most of the urban areas have been abandoned or turned into ruins. However, many facilities in the urban area where the base is located are still preserved. Therefore, many buildings can be seen. The streets and roads are also maintained. Large and small vehicles come and go unimpeded. After showing the pass, the convoy entered the base. Luo Yan's eyes appeared with silver cross stars, and he opened the Eye of True Suchness and looked out the window casually. At a glance, there were colorful lines of information floating on the street. Luo Yan randomly read some of the information lines. Zheng Shui, 27 years old, a purchaser of Bailin Pharmaceutical Company. Liu Sisi, 29 years old, a tester of Blue Sky Biotechnology Company. Chen Zun, 38 years old, a member of the Fenglui Guard team. Yuje, 26 years old, a specially hired mecha master of Green Radish Pharmaceutical Synthesis Company. As Yang Lixi said, there are many medicine companies in the Lanquan base. It seems that not only the pharmaceutical companies in Guangling, Qingyang and Changping have patronized this place, but also the medicine companies in other cities are very fond of this place. It seems that the Black Wave Company must have some support behind it. Otherwise, how dare they collect tolls in such a place? After arriving at the designated parking spot of the base, Luo Yan took the time to practice. Yang Lixi took people out for a walk. In the evening, the head of the Lanquan base security management office was a middle-aged man. He was yawning boredly. He has been the head of the management office in the base for 3 years. The security in the base is still good. Although there are not many small conflicts every day, nothing big has happened. Seeing that dinner time is approaching, the middle-aged man is already planning what to do for fun in the evening. "Well, I heard that some girls with good qualities came to Heron Club. Let's go and take a look at it tonight." Just then, he heard a lot of noise outside. Then there was a knock on the office door. The middle-aged man shouted, "Come in." A security guard ran in with sweat all over his forehead. "Boss, something bad has happened. Come out and take a look." The middle-aged man frowned and said, "What's the matter?" The security guard pointed outside and said, "Lion Sheng, Dong Jiao, Taping, Lisu, Xing Feng, etc. Personnel from more than 20 medicinal materials companies have jointly appealed, demanding that we drive the Hiteo company out of the base. The reason is that the Hiteo company set up checkpoints outside the base to collect fees, which greatly damaged their interests." The middle-aged man touched his head. "Damn it, it's not the first day that those guys from the Hiteo company have been doing this. Why didn't they make trouble before? But now, what can happen, even if we complain to them? The Hiteo company has a deep friendship with our director Zio. Even if I have 10 times the courage, I dare not handle this matter." The middle-aged man pointed at the security guard. "You go find Director Zio immediately and tell him what happened here. I'll go out for a while." The security guard nodded quickly. The middle-aged man ordered again, "Remember to go through the back door. Don't let anyone block you." A moment later, he arrived at the hall. The entire hall was packed with people. The few dozen security guards were squeezed into a corner. Seeing the middle-aged man coming out, someone shouted, "The head of the security department is out. We want justice. The Hiteo company has been collecting tolls outside the base for years, and I don't believe the base doesn't know. We demand the expulsion of the Hiteo company. The base will give us an answer immediately." The crowd was in turmoil. The middle-aged man wiped the sweat off his face, forced a smile, raised his hand and said, everyone, I'm Lin Yang, the person in charge here. Please rest assured, I will definitely handle your complaints fairly and impartially. Now please line up and come one by one. I will have someone take your statements so that we can submit it to the base and let the law enforcement department handle this matter for you." Someone in the crowd immediately shouted, "Don't listen to him. The Black Wave Company can collect tolls outside the base, and it's not just for a day or a half. It must be in collusion with the base." Someone else shouted, "That's right. The public security department is just a decoration of the base. It can't make the decision at all. Let the person in charge of the base come out. Let the person who has a say come out." Someone else shouted, "I support it. Let the person in charge come out. How much money have we been robbed of by the Black Wave Company in the past few years? That's all our hard-earned money. We risked our lives to enter the forbidden area. After the job is done, the harvest will be divided equally with the Black Wave Company. There's no such reason in the world." In the crowd, "You said something, I said something." Suddenly, people got excited again. For a moment, the noise was deafening. Chapter 128, Public Outrage is Hard to Offend. The middle-aged man Lin Yang's face turned pale. He originally wanted to delay these people and wait for Director Zio to come. But now, if he doesn't take any practical action, he might be beaten up by these people. Lin Yang knew very well that the Hiteo company was not a good thing. In recent years, it has collected tolls outside the base. I don't know how much money it has made. Part of this money was given to Director Zio. Director Zio took out some and distributed it layer by layer. Even he would get a lot of benefits from the tolls of the Hiteo company every year. Because of this, the base turned a blind eye to the Hiteo company. In addition, the Hiteo company itself is also very strong. They have their own collection team, and they have been in the forbidden area for many years. They have 5 mechs. Their strength is not to be underestimated. The companies targeted by Hiteo are all small companies. These companies usually have only one mecha. In many cases, several companies share one mecha. So facing the domineering behavior of the Hiteo company, these small shrimps dare not speak out. But today, I don't know what happened. They all united and created a lot of pressure. Just when Lin Yang was at a loss, there were harsh sounds outside. It turned out that 7 or 8 off-road vehicles stopped outside the gate. Then dozens of base soldiers surrounded the management office. A middle-aged man with a mustache walked in. With a cold breath, he looked around. Who dares to make trouble in the base? Lin Yang saw him. He felt relieved and hurriedly introduced him. Everyone, this is a Supervisor Zhao Yun. At the same time, Supervisor Zhao is also the director of our law enforcement department. He is an adult who can definitely have a say in the base. He quickly unloaded the pressure on Jiuying. People immediately looked at Jiuying. Seeing the fully armed soldiers behind him, they couldn't help but feel a little afraid. At this time, someone said, "We are not making trouble. We want to complain about the Heitao company." Jiuying said coldly, "Has the Heitao company committed crimes and killed innocent people in the base?" Everyone was speechless. Lin Yang said quickly, "No, no, in the base, the staff of Heitao company abide by the base's regulations and obey the law." Jiuying said loudly, "Then what are you complaining about? I don't care what Heitao company does outside the base. I can't care. If you have the ability, go and retaliate yourself. Now, disperse immediately. If I see you making trouble again, I'll catch you one by one." Suddenly, everyone was in an uproar. The attitude of the base was so bad. It was really disappointing. Someone shouted, "Although Heitao company is collecting tolls outside the base, if it is not approved by the base, would they dare to do this?" Jiuying immediately burst out a wave of yuanli, suppressing the whole scene. "Who? Stand out. The base condones it. Do you have any evidence? If not, it's slander." A man stood up and shouted, "I'm out. Why are you trying to silence me? What the Heitao company has done outside the base is not just once or twice, but for several years. Who would believe it if the Longquan base didn't take any benefits from them? We are not children anymore. What's the point of telling lies with open eyes?" People echoed one after another. "We don't have any evidence. But are you determined to protect the Heitao company? Don't forget who made the base so prosperous. Is it the Heitao company? No, it's us." The man called out loudly, "Everyone, don't you think so? If it weren't for us, would their Longquan base have been able to develop to where it is today? Now the base would rather protect the Heitao company than protect us. What are we still doing here? I declare that, if the base doesn't drive the Heitao company out, I won't come to this damn place anymore. It's not like the Misty Canyon is the only place where you can collect herbs. At worst, I'll go to another base." As soon as the man finished speaking, someone responded, "My Dongyuan company said the same thing. So does our Qo company." Then, even outside the door, someone was shouting, "So does our Yunhua Pharmaceutical. So does our Lingxi Hall." Jiuying looked back. Only then did he realize that a group of pharmaceutical companies had come to the outside of the building. They held banners with slogans like "Drive out the Heitao company." Jiuying didn't expect that this incident would be so serious. So many companies actually united. Jiuying narrowed his eyes slightly. At this time, Lin Yang squeezed over and whispered, "Manager Zio, it's hard to offend the public." Jiuying's heart sank. He didn't report the incident today and planned to handle it himself. But now it seems that, if he doesn't handle it well, and drives away so many companies, the reputation of Longquan base will inevitably plummet. Maybe the Huanglong company will soon be replaced by other surface companies. In that case, he will have to bear the anger of the company boss. For a Heitao company, it's not worth it. At the moment, Jiuying could only cough dryly a few times, raised his hand and said, "Everyone, I know what you want. Okay. We will immediately order the Black Tower company to withdraw from the base. Never enter the Longquan base again. Is this okay?" Someone in the crowd shouted again, "Give us an accurate time." "Yes, that's right. We want an accurate time." Accurate time. Jiuying thought, since we have to expel Black Tower anyway, he won't be polite. He said loudly, "Our law enforcement department will take action immediately. I protect you all. Within today, we will definitely ask the Black Tower company to leave the base." Only then did the crowd cheer. Someone shouted, "Let's go to the office of the Black Tower company and give them a farewell." This was clearly to supervise the law enforcement department. Jiuying cursed in his heart, but on the surface he still smiled. "Yes, yes, yes, go ahead, go ahead." People then left. Lin Yang breathed a sigh of relief. Then he heard Jiuying say, "Let someone check it out. Who instigated this incident today? It's better not to let me find out. Otherwise." There was a cold light in his eyes. Jiuying is not stupid. No one complained about what Black Tower did in the past. Even if there were, it was only 1 or 2 cases. But today, all the big and small companies suddenly united. If there was no one to organize behind them, he would not believe it. Finding the instigator is also to give an explanation to Black Tao. After all, they have taken benefits from them for so many years. This matter still needs to be dealt with. After explaining, Jiuying took the base soldiers to the car and rushed to the office of Black Tao in the base. Chapter 129 Arrogance. After Jiuying finished his training, he saw Yang Lixi coming back. Done. Yang Lixi made an okay gesture. I instigated dozens of large and small medicinal material companies in the city. All of them are victims who have been bullied by Heavy Tao in the past few years. Did you know? After Heavy Tao collected the first toll, it will offer monthly, quarterly, annual and other packages to the victims. Monthly packages only require 40% of the harvest. Quarterly packages are 30%. Annual packages are 20%. Those victims have no choice but to buy their packages. It's ridiculous. But the good days of Heavy Tao Company are over. Under my instigation, dozens of medicinal material companies forced the base's law enforcement department out. The law enforcement department has agreed to expel Heavy Tao Company today. Jiuying couldn't hide his curiosity. How did you instigate them? Identity. Yang Lixi said complacently. After all, I'm the son of our city's construction director. I will take the lead and speak out. So naturally there will be a lot of responses. Jiuying frowned. It will be found out. Yang Lixi laughed. That's for sure. But it doesn't matter. After they find out, the base won't dare to touch us. They will even guarantee our safety in the base. Let's talk about it later. Let's kill the people from Black Tao outside the base. Even if I didn't incite those companies, it would be found out sooner or later. We did the job outside the base. Jiuying nodded. He felt like he was getting to know Yang Lixi again. In the evening, cars were driving out of the base. All the staff of the Black Tao Company's office and the base were cleared out of the base. In a car, Xing Feng's expression was distorted. He was the person in charge of the Black Tao Company's office. Xing Feng was about 40 years old. He was strong and had broad shoulders. Even when he was sitting, he gave people a great sense of oppression. He also practiced visualization. He had just broken through and was promoted to the third level of the primary level not long ago. At this moment, along with his emotional ups and downs, layers of yuanli fluctuations were also surging in the car. He never expected that the base's law enforcement department would personally come forward to send him out of Langquan base. And it was the director of the law enforcement department, Jiuying, who personally presided over it. Originally, today, Xing Feng had lost a group of his men and chariots. He was planning revenge. Unexpectedly, he was driven out of the base before he took any action. Jiuying, this bastard. He gets so many benefits from us every year. He actually helps outsiders. Xing Feng snorted and said to the driver, hurry, let's go to the forbidden area to meet up with Mr. Li Mingguan. HMPH, wait until we come back. We must teach those bastards a lesson. At this moment, he suddenly had a premonition of danger. The next second, there was a sharp whistling sound. An off-road vehicle in front flew into the air because a shell exploded under the car. Then the car Xing Feng was riding in also shook violently, rolling and spinning continuously. Xing Feng was shocked. Someone actually took action after he left the base. How audacious. Jiuying also thought so. He personally led the team and sent Xing Feng out of the base under the gaze of the people. But Xing Feng's convoy was still in sight. It was attacked. Jiuying's eyes twitched slightly, but he did not move. He knew that if he rushed to help Xing Feng now, it would confirm the rumor that the base and the Heavy Tao Company were in cahoots. So he couldn't move. Unless Xing Feng escaped into the base, he would have an excuse. After a round of bombing, most of the Heavy Tao Company's convoy was killed or injured. Next, a team that came out of nowhere approached step by step and killed the remaining members of the Heavy Tao Company. This scene did not win the sympathy of the people in the base. On the contrary, some people cheered loudly. It can be seen how much the Heavy Tao Company hated it. Xing Feng climbed out of the car window coughing. Although he did not die, he was injured. His left hand was bloody and broken, and he could no longer move. Xing Feng hid behind a car and yelled, "Who did it? I don't know." A guard responded. Xing Feng cursed him as idiot. Then he shouted, "Hold on." After he finished speaking, He left the convoy and rushed towards the base. He knew that the only way to survive now was to run back to the base. Zhang King saw from afar that Jiuying was standing at the gate of the base, but he had no intention of helping. Suddenly, Zhang King cursed all his ancestors of 18 generations. Even so, he could only run wildly. As he ran, the distance between Zhang King and the base was getting shorter and shorter. But at this moment, he suddenly had a premonition of danger and stopped abruptly. A volley of bullets swept past his feet. Zhang King looked up abruptly and saw a figure running towards him with a gun. He was going to intercept him. It was Jiuying. Jiuying used the Eye of Truth, and Zhang King's information was clearly revealed in his eyes. Jiuying even read his thoughts and knew that he was going to run back to the base to seek shelter, so he chased him. At the entrance of the base, Jiuying narrowed his eyes slightly. At this moment, the sunset was like blood. In the blood-colored sunlight, Jiuying had a blank expression, and his red eyes flashed with a faint light. Like the eyes of a wild wolf, cold and fierce. Jiuying snorted softly through his nostrils. Jiuying intercepted Zhang King in front of him. He felt that he was not taking him seriously, but he couldn't break the rules of the base. The base didn't care what happened outside. Zhang King burst out his Yuanli, and his speed suddenly increased. He rushed towards the entrance of the base. Jiuying's face was normal. Yuanli rushed in his body. He broke through the designated acupoints and used the secret method. Kaon wheel. Boom. Yuanli light burst up and rose, whistling upwards. With a boiling breath, Jiuying suddenly accelerated and passed by Zhang King. A dark blue sword light flashed. Zhang King suddenly screamed and fell to the ground involuntarily. His right leg was broken at the knee and fell 2 steps behind. Zhang King's scream made Jiuying's eyes twitch more violently. At this time, Zhang King was less than 3 meters away from the entrance of the base. But these 3 meters seemed to be impossible to reach forever. Zhang King raised his head and stretched out his right hand that was still movable. He wanted to crawl over. The sword light flashed. The splitting star pierced Zhang King's right palm, pinning him to the ground. Zhang King raised his head, looked at Jiuying, and yelled, "Save me." Jiuying closed his eyes slightly and looked at Jiuying little by little. Jiuying walked in front of Zhang King, then turned his head to look at the entrance of the base and looked at Jiuying. The sights of both parties sparked in the air. Jiuying slowly said, "Let's be merciful when we can." Jiuying nodded and then pulled out the splitting star. Jiuying breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that this kid was quite reasonable. How much face did he give himself? The next second, Jiuying's pupils dilated slightly, and he saw Jiuying first cut off Zhang King's spine with a sword, and then picked up Zhang King's remaining left leg, and dragged him away. Seeing Zhang King's face rubbed a trail of blood on the ground, Jiuying finally couldn't help it, and a wave of Yuanli broke out. "You are too arrogant. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 130, Forced Confession. Being able to become the head of the base and in charge of such an important department as the law enforcement department, Jiuying is naturally not a pushover. As soon as his energy fluctuation appeared, Jiuying turned around and a silver cross appeared in his eyes. The eye of true suchness was opened and Jiuying's energy and blood were clearly visible. The combat power of this mustache man was similar to that of Dugu Changxin. His visualization technique had reached the intermediate level. Although it seemed nothing special, don't forget that this is on the surface. The cultivators on the surface do not have as many resources as the dungeons. Being able to cultivate to the intermediate level on the surface is already quite remarkable. In addition, the people who make a living on the surface are much more fierce than those in the dungeons. They are a group of wolves, and they are hungry wolves. They will bite off a piece of meat from you if they have the chance. Therefore, facing Jiuying was more cautious than facing Dugu Changxin. He still pulled Zhang King's leg, but lowered his center of gravity. He did not end the Kaon wheel, but burst out again. The energy of the primary 4th level surged. condensed into a phantom of thousands of mountains. The Eye of Truth searches for the other party's root and prepares to destroy the root. For a moment, although Jiuying knew that Luo Yan's level was not as good as his, a bead of sweat appeared on his forehead. He didn't understand why the young man in front of him gave him an extremely dangerous feeling, as if he would not get any benefit, even if he tried his best, and might even lose his life. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, Jiuying would never believe that one day he would be intimidated by a stranger. At this time, Luo Yan said, "This is outside the base." Jiuying was stunned for a moment, and then understood. Luo Yan meant that he did not use force in the base. According to the rules, Jiuying had no right to ask, just like he did not ask about the things that the Black Wave Company did. At the same time, this was also a step for both parties. Jiuying made a slight assessment, and then snorted, "That's true." He took the initiative to restrain his arrogance, so as not to cause misunderstandings under the traction of the key, leading to an unmanageable situation. Of course, if I died, Huanglan Company would definitely seek justice for me. But I was already dead. What would it matter if I got 100 justices? In troubled times, nothing was more important than my own life. Luo Yang nodded gently. He gradually gathered his Yuan force. But he didn't dare to end the secret technique. He was worried that Jiuying would shamelessly attack him. He turned around and faced Jiuying. He dragged Xing away backwards. Poor Xing, his spine was cut off. He had no sensation in his lower body. He still felt the upper body. His face kept rubbing against the road, making him scream in pain. At the entrance of the base, Jiuying's eyelids twitched slightly. He thought that the young man was both cruel and cautious. This kind of person was the most difficult to deal with. He made up his mind not to stand up for the Black Wave Company. It was not worth it. The others felt their scalps tingling as they listened to Xing's screams as he walked away. Just imagine how much pain Xing was in. Although they had been walking on the surface for many years, they were used to killing and death. But they were still terrified. They were all asking who Luo Yan was. "Disperse, disperse," Jiuying shouted, waving his hand to disperse the crowd. His subordinates whispered, "Manager Zio, that kid just had an arrogant attitude. Do you want me to check his background? Let's go back An." He made a throat-cutting gesture. He thought that if he flattered his superior and took the opportunity to show off, Jiuying would look at him differently. Unexpectedly, Jiuying suddenly grabbed his neck with one hand and lifted him off the ground. The subordinate was strangled by Jiuying and couldn't breathe. At the same time, Jiuying heard coldly, "Throughout the ages, how many great figures have been wise all their lives, but died inexplicably in the end. Do you know why? It's because of fools like you who think they are smart, but actually bring disaster to their masters." After speaking, there was a snap. The subordinate's neck was crushed by Jiuying. The law enforcement officers were frightened and turned pale. Jiuying glanced at them. He said calmly, "No action without my order." He threw the body away. Then he jumped into an off-road vehicle and drove away. In a forest outside the base, Xing was thrown to the ground like a dead dog. "Here. All the people who survived in the Hitao Company are here." A man with a white face inside kept kowtowing to Yang Lixi. "Young master, please let me go. I confess everything. I confess everything." At this time, Xing heard it and tried to raise his bloody face. He gritted his teeth and shouted, "Lu Jiuying, you are a waste. If you dare to say a word, I will kill you." Yang Lixi walked over with a smile. He squatted down and said, "Why don't you tell me where your people are in the forbidden area? Then I will spare you." Xing was also stubborn. He opened his mouth and was about to spit blood at Yang Lixi. Yang Lixi knew the opportunity to dodge. Then he grabbed his head and pressed it to the ground, wiping it hard. Xing immediately screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Yang Lixi raised his head and smiled. "Student Luo, I'll do the rest. You go and rest." Luo Yan nodded. He had been bursting out continuously. He had consumed a lot of his energy. He really didn't want to waste time on the interrogation. Besides, if he did everything, what would Yang Lixi do? After Luo Yan left, Yang Lixi pulled Xing's head up. He said with a smile, "What do you think? Have you changed your mind?" Xing couldn't speak anymore. so he made an international gesture to Yang Lixi. Yang Lixi nodded. He stood up. He took out his pistol. Bang! Zhang Qing's finger exploded into pieces. Screams immediately resounded through the woods. The man named Lu Jiuying was so scared that his crotch was wet. He shouted, I know where Mr. Li Mingyuan is. They are in the third area. They are in the third area of the forbidden area. Zhang Qing couldn't speak anymore. He could only cast a resentful look at Lu Jiuying. This look made Yang Lixi think that Lu Jiuying should not be lying. So he shot Zhang Qing dead. Then he helped Lu Jiuying up. He brushed off the leaves on his body. He smiled and said, Mr. Lu, right? Don't worry, I'm a trustworthy person. Next, please come with us to the forbidden area. As long as your so-called Mr. Li Mingyuan is in the third area, I promise that you will come back intact. Then, you will be free. Lu Jiuying's face suddenly fell. No. If Mr. Li sees me, he will kill me. Yang Lixi did not answer. He raised his hand and made a gesture. A dozen company guards immediately shot the other captives. Yang Lixi then said, what did you say just now? Lu Jiuying's teeth chattered, and he changed his words. I said, I'm willing to go to the forbidden area with you. Great. Then we are friends. Yang Lixi waved his hand and said, give Mr. Lu water and food, as well as a set of clean clothes. Yang Lixi said again, Mr. Lu, after eating and changing clothes, let's talk about your Hiteo company. Chapter 131 Fishing in Troubled Waters. Luo Yan took a short break. His energy and spirit were restored. He saw Yang Lixi coming over. He sat down. Then he took out a paper bag. With his back to Luo Yan, he vomited violently. After vomiting, Yang Lixi's face turned pale. He rinsed his mouth with water and wiped his sweat with a handkerchief. He smiled bitterly and said, I killed someone. I haven't even killed a chicken before. But I killed someone today, although I have rehearsed this day in my mind for a long time. But when the gun went down just now, I saw that guy's skull flew out. God knows how I held back from vomiting. Luo Yan then said, it's okay. It will be better in the future. Yang Lixi nodded, I hope so. But tonight, I guess I won't be able to sleep. He gulped down several gulps of water and wiped his lips. He said seriously, the man called Lu Jiuying has basically confessed everything. Black Wave Company does have 5 mechs, but now, there are only 3 here. And they are all in the forbidden area. Black Wave Company has occupied the third area of the forbidden area for many years. That is a natural medicine valley, growing many exotic flowers and plants. Originally, it should belong to the public mining area. But Black Wave Company is too powerful. Other companies can only acquiesce to this situation. In fact, this situation is also more common in other forbidden areas. Powerful and influential companies. There is always meat to eat, and the others just drink some soup and pick up some bones. But Black Wave Company has gone too far. It occupies the medicine valley in the forbidden area and collects tolls outside the forbidden area. This money is all earned by them. Luo Yan pointed out the key point. What do they rely on? Yang Lixi took another sip of water. They are from Jiuying City and are a member of the Red Alliance Chamber of Commerce. The boss of the Black Wave Company, Ding Yang, married the daughter of the president of the Red Alliance Chamber of Commerce. So he occupied a lot of resources. The president of the Red Alliance Chamber of Commerce has a younger brother named Chuemo. He is the director of finance of Jiuying City. So this is the result of this back and forth. The Red Alliance Chamber of Commerce is so powerful that even the Black Wave Company is particularly domineering. But they do have the qualifications to be domineering. Yang Lixi smiled and said, there are 2 big shots in the Black Wave Company. One is the boss Ding Yang. According to Lu Jiuying, their boss has the strength of the intermediate 2nd level. The other is Li Mingyuan, the supervisor currently in the forbidden area. The realm of visualization, elementary grade perfection. Good at Zuanshu. The Mecha Jade Unicorn is an intermediate body, embedded with a supercore matrix, but Lu Jiuying doesn't know what the core is, nor what the basic characteristics are. In addition, there are 2 elementary Zuanjis, equipped with conventional firepower, and the visualization realm of the drivers is elementary 2nd level. In addition, Li Mingyuan's Shenzang is a mysterious system, named Tangshan. It is said that this Shenzhen can release the mysterious arts without the need for seals and reduce the consumption of the mysterious arts. Luo Yan nodded. Lu Jiuying explained it very clearly. Yang Lixi smiled. How dare he not explain it clearly? The body of his superior is right next to him. He didn't scare him to death, which means he has a strong psychological quality. Luo Yan thought for a while and said, I will try to kill Li Mingyan when we enter the forbidden area tomorrow. It's just the realm of primary grade perfection. Luo Yan is not afraid. The only trouble is that Li Mingyan obviously tends to master the mysterious arts based on the characteristics of his Shenzang. Tangshan can release the mysterious arts without the need for seals and reduce the consumption of the mysterious arts. Take Wu Tijin as a reference. You know that such an opponent, once he is pulled away from him, he will be suppressed by the kite tactics. It is not difficult to imagine. Li Mingyan with Tangshan can be said to be a mysterious artillery, quick to attack and low consumption. If the formation of the mysterious arts is connected and the layout is understood, the longer it drags on, the more disadvantageous it will be for Luo Yan. To deal with such a person, you have to find an opportunity, get close to him, and kill him instantly. At this time, Yang Lixi said, are you going to do it alone? He didn't wait for Luo Yan to answer and said, Student Luo, it's not necessary. Think about it. Even if we kill Li Mingyan, drive the people of Black Wave out of the Medicine Valley, but we only have one measure. We can't occupy the Medicine Valley. By then, we will be busy as hell, and we will also offend the Black Wave Company. In the end, it will benefit other companies. We don't want to do such a loss-making business. Luo Yan glanced at him. Yang Lixi said with a smile, when I was inciting other companies today, I also found out some information. I know which companies are pretty good, about the same as us, or a little weaker than us. When we return to the base later, I will find these companies. Incite them to go to Medicine Valley to cause trouble tomorrow. Drive away the Black Wave Company. If they do, these companies will help us share the pressure. When the time comes, if the Black Wave Company wants to retaliate, it will have to be equally distributed. It won't just come after us. I don't think that makes sense. Anyway, let's muddy the water tomorrow. Wait by the side, and if you have a chance, catch the big fish, Li Mingyan. After listening, Luo Yang nodded slightly. Suddenly he remembered Wei Fenghua's evaluation of Yang Lixi. He felt that it made some sense. The two discussed some details. Then they returned to the base. The next day. Misty Canyon. Medicine Valley in the 3rd district. In a camp on the edge of the Medicine Valley. In a tent. Li Mingyan woke up with satisfaction. This middle-aged man has a sallow complexion, sunken eye sockets, and a thin body. Logically speaking, although he is only practicing the visualization technique at the elementary level, those who have already practiced to the elementary level of great perfection will not look so bad, no matter how bad they are. But Li Mingyan loves women. Even when he is collecting herbs in the forbidden area, he must have women accompany him every night. Just like now, there are 2 women lying on the bed. They are not very old and have average looks, but they have tall breasts, round hips, slender waists, and long legs. They have excellent figures. Moreover, these 2 women know how to please Li Mingyan. Therefore, Li Mingyan's tent looks very lively every night. This also makes Li Mingyan's body empty. Although he is said to be a great perfection, the strength he can exert is only up to the 5th level. Moreover, he has been unable to break through the realm and advance. But Li Mingyan himself does not care about this. With the support of the company, he has women and money. He works in a safe zone. Unless he is in bad luck. If he ran into a high-level beast or the owner of the Forbidden Land. Otherwise, with his strength, he would be able to walk sideways in the Forbidden Medicine Valley and Langquan base. After Li Mingyan got up, he drank some medicinal soup with various tonics. Then he pinched the buttocks of one of the women, and then laughed dryly and stood up. He walked out of the tent. Suddenly, he heard a commotion from a distance. There was a cloud of dust flying all over the sky, as if a large army was heading towards the Medicine Valley. Chapter 132 Negotiations failed. What's going on? Li Mingyan frowned, took out a communicator, and said, Zhang Lei, Xiang Wei, go and see what's going on. Who is blind, and came to our Medicine Valley? A moment later, two ordinary models of Xuanji walk towards the forest outside the Medicine Valley. In addition, there are 5 black bear armored vehicles, 3 war tiger tanks and many off-road vehicles. The black bear armored vehicles are painted black and are equipped with 90mm guns, 40mm grenade launchers, and 25mm machine guns. The war tiger tank is a heavy tank. Before the advent of mechs, it weighed nearly 70 tons and was considered one of the heavyweight mobile vehicles on the ground. It is equipped with an 88mm main gun and 3 7.92mm caliber machine guns. In addition to other vehicles, they are mighty. They are lined up on the left and right of the two mechs. The strike layout is completed. Li Mingyuan is not idle either. He returns to his Mecha Jade Unicorn. Mecha Jade Unicorn. Type, Xuanji. Weight, 1,726 tons. The body has smooth lines. The paint is mainly silver white with indigo lines. The most recognizable part is its head armor. There are antlers on both sides of the head, which contain communication antennas. In the middle are lines in the shape of flames. When the mecha is started, these lines flow with a light blue light. The light flickers. From a distance, it looks like a ball of blue and white flames. It is very dazzling. Since Li Mingyuan is good at Xuanshu, there are no heavy weapons on the Jade Unicorn. The regular weapons of the body are a rifle and a dagger. In Li Mingyuan's words, if he needs close combat, it means he has already lost. At this time, even if he is given a heavy weapon, it is useless. Therefore, light equipment can reduce the weight of the mecha and increase the speed. Sitting in the cab of the Jade Unicorn, through the panoramic window, Li Mingyuan saw that the nameless convoy had stopped. Then one mecha carrier after another started. 1234 for mechas? Li Mingyuan narrowed his eyes slightly. He saw several mechas standing up, but he didn't take it seriously. Those were all old models of mechas. In fact, they hadn't even been equipped with the supercore matrix. They were nothing to be afraid of. Those mechas strode over. 2 black wave mechas. One of them used the external speaker function to broadcast. Mechas ahead, please stop. This is private territory. This is our black wave company's herb picking base. Please leave. Those mechas really stopped. Then, someone else was also broadcasting. Private territory? When did the forbidden area become the property of your black wave company? According to the forbidden area development regulations issued by the Giant Beast Strategic House, all forbidden areas are open to the public and provided to various underground citizen bases for exploration, development, and resource recovery. The forbidden areas do not belong to any underground city or any group. Your black wave company is very domineering. Li Mingyuan snorted and also turned on the external speaker and started broadcasting. Who is talking nonsense? You said it was the regulations issued by the Strategic House. Then I would say that you made it up on the spur of the moment. In short, this is the territory of our black wave company. Anyone who dares to step into the territory will be regarded as a provocation. You will bear the consequences. The voice snorted and said, then there is nothing to say. Everyone, you all heard it. They are so domineering. Not only do they not take the regulations issued by the Strategic House seriously, they are also shameless and occupy the Medicine Valley and monopolize the raw materials. This voice. It was Yang Lekei. He was in an armored vehicle. After that, he took out another communicator. Student Luo, negotiations have failed. Follow the original plan. Luo Yan said HMM softly on the communicator. On the other side, Li Mingyuan laughed and said, domineering? In this world, whoever has the bigger fist has the final say. You are all trash living in the old times. Say another word of nonsense. Today, I will make you die without a burial place. He controlled the mecha, raised his rifle, and fired a shot at the other team's convoy in the distance. Bang! Amid the huge gunshot, an off-road vehicle was directly blown into pieces. The people in the car also died tragically on the spot. Yang Lixi, who was not far away, was frightened and broke into a cold sweat. If this shot had deviated by more than 10 meters, he would have died. At this moment, a sharp whistle sounded in the sky. Li Mingyuan and other mecha technicians of the Black Wave Company just raised their heads and saw 2 black shadows in the air dragging out red flame tails. They fell instantly and hit the 2 Xuanjis except the Jade Unicorn. Li Mingyuan's pupils expanded a little bit. Through the panoramic window, he saw that there were 2 ballistic missiles. After they hit the mecha, the missile body expanded. Then a bright white light lit up in the deafening explosion roar. Following that, a terrifying shockwave came. Under the 2 hit Xuanji, the war vehicles were like encountering a violent storm. The tanks and armored vehicles were fine. Those off-road vehicles were blown away by the shockwave of the explosion. The people in the car screamed and were blown out. When they fell to the ground, they all coughed up blood and could not get up, even if they did not die. The roar of the explosion gradually disappeared. Only then did Li Mingyuan see that the 2 Xuanjis had been scrapped. The opponent obviously locked the position of the cab. The head of the mecha was blown to pieces, and the engine on the chest and the energy furnace inside were severely damaged. In the process of falling, a series of secondary explosions occurred. It turned directly into scrap metal and fell to the ground, crushing a group of trees. Li Mingyuan immediately searched around, trying to find the body that launched the missile. But at this time, the 4 mechas in front had already started their actions. They dispersed and used their rifles, shoulder guns, missiles, etc. to bombard the Jade Unicorn. The fierce artillery fire made Li Mingyuan unable to see anything. Fortunately, when the 2 mechas were attacked, he instinctively released the mysterious art, the empty wall. The Shenzang godlike power allowed him to release the mysterious art without making a seal, and reduce the consumption of Yuanli. As a result, Li Mingyuan erected several invisible barriers in an instant, protecting himself in all directions, and isolating the many artillery fires outside the empty wall. Li Mingyuan ordered, while driving the mecha, "Those who are not dead yet, get up and bomb the knee joints of those mechas to paralyze their movement functions." In the tanks and armored vehicles, the soldiers of the Black Wave Company finally came to their senses. They immediately followed Li Mingyuan's instructions. Then the sound of artillery fire soon rang out. Fireballs kept exploding from the leg joints of the mechas. One of the mechas temporarily let Li Mingyuan go, pointed its rifle downwards, and fired at the tanks. These annoying flies were dealt with first. So, the key to winning or losing returned to the mecha stage. Chapter 133, War of Attrition. In the forest outside the Medicine Valley, there were explosions, cannon fire, and gunfire. They almost never stopped. Li Mingyuan maintained the empty wall, while using instruments to scan the enemy planes. Now, the Jade Unicorn was under concentrated fire. Outside the panoramic window, there was either exploding flames or thick black smoke. It was impossible to lock the opponent with the naked eye. On the radar, Li Mingyuan saw 4 enemy aircraft signals moving constantly. He immediately understood that these opponents had made up their minds to use long-range artillery to consume his Yuanli Zuanshu. This made Li Mingyuan think of another question. How did these guys know that he was good at Zuanshu? Whether in the forbidden area or in the base, there were few times when Li Mingyuan needed to take action. As for the Behemoths, the Medicine Valley was in a safe area, and occasionally 1 or 2 low-level Behemoths would accidentally break in. So the number of times he needed to fight was very few. It can be said that except for those who were closely related to him, few people in the Longquan base should know what he was good at. Unless there was an insider. But this didn't make sense. Zhang King had no reason to betray himself. Li Mingyuan snorted and concentrated. He was going to make plans after he solved this problem. "Do you think I have no way out, since we are far away?" Li Mingyuan's mind moved. 2 balls of Yuanli light rose up beside the mecha, condensing into a wolf-shaped outline. Phantom Wolf. Li Mingyuan immediately commanded the 2 Phantom Wolves to rush out of the invisible barrier and rush towards 2 of the enemy planes. It was just as he thought. As soon as the Phantom Wolf appeared, the 2 targeted mechas had to focus their firepower on the wolf beast. In this way, Li Mingyuan's pressure was greatly reduced. But at this moment, the radar alarm sounded. A red light spot approached quickly. At the same time, he heard a sharp whistle. Ballistic missile. Here it comes again. Li Mingyuan controlled the Jade Unicorn and turned around suddenly, facing the direction of the missile. He hoped to capture the opponent. But as the missile collided with the empty wall, the flames of the explosion blocked his vision. Li Mingyuan only had time to glimpse a huge and majestic black shadow. The field of vision was filled with flames. The power of the missile easily blew up the empty wall. Although Li Mingyuan released a few more in time, they were all destroyed by the impact of the explosion. The Jade Unicorn was hit by the shockwave like a drunkard, stumbling back and forth. Li Mingyuan was also shocked in the cab, and before he could react, there was another shock behind him. It turned out that, while the empty wall of the Jade Unicorn was broken, 2 mechs from other pharmaceutical companies took the opportunity to attack. They locked Li Mingyuan's body and used all the long-range weapons. Machine guns, rifles, missiles. All that can be used are used. They don't care about the problem of money at all. As a result, the Jade Unicorn was attacked by fierce artillery fire, and the thin back armor suddenly couldn't support it. Li Mingyuan snorted, adjusted. First propped up the empty wall to protect the body, then activated the supernuclear matrix. The core of his matrix is C. The basic characteristic is shockwave. Immediately, the matrix was activated. Li Mingyuan turned around and stepped hard on the 2 mechs. But the translucent shockwave visible to the naked eye spread in that direction. The shockwave surged through the 2 mechs like a tide and immediately knocked down the yellowish brown and dark red mechs, both of which had mottled bodies. Li Mingyuan took the opportunity to use the number 7 mysterious technique wind gun, and he used it continuously. Immediately, a sharp whistle sounded over the forest. One after another, the spears formed by the high-speed rotating airflow flew out, hitting the 2 mechs like a rainstorm, causing them to shake constantly and burst into sparks. The armor was either dented, cracked, or fell off. The 2 mechs immediately had no time to fight back and quickly rolled their bodies sideways to avoid the sharp edge, in order to prevent Li Mingyuan from blowing up their bodies. After a burst, Li Mingyuan exhaled, then frowned. There are 4 mechs nearby. There is another one in the distance looking for an opportunity. 1 against 5. The situation is not good. Li Mingyuan whispered, if you have green mountains, you will not be afraid of running out of firewood. Today, this medicine valley will be given to you first. Let's wait and see. Jade Unicorn raised his rifle and fired at the mechs, conducting a fire suppression. The mechs turned around and ran away, out of the range of the empty wall. But at this time, the sound of swish rang in the air. One by one, the chains used to capture the giant beasts broke through the air. The armor-piercing cones at the front of the chains flashed green light. They kept falling behind the Jade Unicorn, breaking into its outer armor and fastening it from the inside. In the cab, Li Mingyuan's whole body shook violently. Looking at the computer, he cursed angrily. You bastards. I'll teach you a lesson, and you're going to open a dying factory, right? Okay. I'm going to kill you all today. He raised the empty wall again. He released the wind gun. He wanted to take advantage of the opportunity of the 2 mechs on the opposite side to blast them in return. But at this moment, there was another sharp sound. The 4th ballistic missile fell from the sky. It burst into a blazing white light. It not only blew up Li Mingyuan's empty wall, but also interrupted his idea of releasing the wind gun continuously. Li Mingyuan was shocked and almost vomited the overpass meal. Moreover, he was attacked by missiles repeatedly, but he didn't even know what the opponent's mecha looked like. This made him very irritated. He didn't know that at the same time as the ballistic missile fell and exploded, a huge figure ran out from behind a lonely peak in the distance. White Dragon. Luo Yan had already fired 4 missiles. According to the plan, it consumed a lot of Li Mingyuan's energy and spirit. Taking advantage of this moment, to break his invisible barrier, Luo Yan controlled the mecha and ran at full speed. In order to avoid being noticed by Li Mingyuan, he had already used the secret method opening the ghost wheel before. Now he took the initiative to attack as soon as it appeared. Then he switched to the Koan wheel. After these 2 secret methods were activated one after another, the Yuanli flames around the White Dragon were like a volcanic eruption. They soared into the sky. The heavy aura released was like a mountain. It directly pressed on Li Mingyuan's heart. After waiting for the flames and smoke to dissipate, Li Mingyuan finally saw the White Dragon through the panoramic window. He saw the Yuanli flames around the mecha bursting out, covering the layers of mountain phantoms, exuding a heavy and majestic meaning. Li Mingyuan did not dare to neglect it. The Yuanli poured out. First, 3 empty walls were raised. Then a phantom wolf was condensed. Then a group of constantly twisting and changing light balls flew away like cannonballs. That was his most powerful technique. Number 15 Zuanshu, cloud splitting. And in one breath, he fired 3 shots in a row. In Li Mingyuan's memory, there was no giant beast or mecha able to withstand 3 consecutive explosions of splitting cloud. Chapter 134, Shattered to Pieces. Yang Lixi climbed onto the roof of the armored vehicle and stood up. As early as when Li Mingyuan fired a shot, he immediately ordered the convoy to retreat a few kilometers. Even so, he could still feel the hot atmosphere of the battlefield. At this time, he saw the operation of Ukilin, empty wall protection, phantom wolf harassment, cloud split main attack. 3 different mystical arts, released continuously and in one go. He couldn't help but sigh. Shenzang, Tongshan, is simply the gospel of mystical arts lovers. Being able to release mystical arts without making seals, plus reducing consumption, is really a magical skill. Li Mingyuan is really lucky to be able to awaken such a godzang. But his good days are over. At this time, a light cry sounded. It turned out that White Dragon was running, raised his rifle, pointed at 3 cloud split and fired. Detonated in advance. Boom. 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 The huge explosion almost broke the eardrum. Yang Lixi couldn't help but cover his ears. 3 balls of light exploded with brilliant flames, and the waves of fire kept rising, turning into a sea of fire. The jets of Yuanli in the sea of fire splashed out, falling on the White Dragon like a rainstorm. Although the momentum was amazing, the most terrifying thing about Ripping Cloud was the first explosion, and the subsequent jet splashes were just icing on the cake. Yang Lixi's mouth corners slightly raised. What a pity. It's a pity that classmate Luo has already suffered from Ripping Cloud. If you use this trick against him again, he already knows how to resolve it. At this time, a thick barrier was added around the body of the Mecha White Dragon. In the barrier, composed of diamond-shaped light spots, the body of the White Dragon suddenly became blurred, which shows how amazing the thickness of the barrier is. Yang Lixi narrowed his eyes. This is the characteristic of the supercore matrix. What core is used? It should be turtle. This is clearly the thick armor characteristic. Good guy. Student Luo, this is going for the high defense and high attack route. If I'm not mistaken, the outer armor of White Dragon has also been replaced. That's a special armor made of behemoth materials. TSK, no wonder you dare to charge against others' attacks. Then charge. Student Luo, charge. Defeat him from the front. Puff puff puff. White Dragon charged against the torrential force jets. Those force jets hit the energy barrier, but only made the barrier light up slightly and ripples appeared. But it was difficult to penetrate the barrier. White Dragon crashed into the flames against the jets. The next second, it rushed out of the flames. Its upper body leaned forward. The rifle had been thrown on the ground. Both hands tightly grasped the long sword Pio Jun. The Pio Jun was of amazing length, with the tip of the sword pointing to the ground. It cut down countless trees along the way. It plowed a clear trail in the forest, pointing directly at Li Mingyuan's Jade Unicorn. Li Mingyuan was shocked. He was overwhelmed by the momentum of the White Dragon. He did not react immediately. It was not until the illusion wolf pounced on the enemy plane that he was blocked outside the energy barrier. It was not until the back of the Jade Unicorn was attacked by fierce artillery fire again that Li Mingyuan came back to his senses. Then his eyes were bloodshot, and he fired 2 cloud-splitting shots in a row. Suddenly, Li Mingyuan's heart skipped a beat. He suddenly felt weak. This feeling was quite unfamiliar to him. After a while, he realized that this was a sign that his Yuanli was about to run out. Even though his Shenzang had the ability to reduce consumption, he didn't know how many mystical arts he had used from the battle to now. And just now, he used cloud splitting 5 times. This is the 15th mystical art. The consumption is much greater than that of the 10th or lower ones. Even if there is Tongshan to reduce consumption, Li Mingyuan couldn't stand it anymore. Boom. This time, 2 cloud splitting hit the energy barrier of White Dragon, bursting into brilliant red flames. This violent explosion consumed a lot of the energy barrier. The remaining barrier could no longer prevent the penetration of the energy jet. However, after penetrating the energy barrier, the energy jet was also consumed. When it fell into the phantom of the thousands of mountains around the white dragon, it could only make the phantom of the thousands of mountains, like the surface of an ancient lake receiving the misty spring rain, only ripple a little, but could not shake the phantom. However, the phantom wolf pounced on the mecha when the barrier dissipated, pounced on the mecha, bit and tore it. Moreover, the phantom wolf pounced on the chest of the mecha and hugged the head of the white dragon, completely blocking the panoramic window. If it were any other driver, he would be unable to move now. But Luo Yan's eyes had already shown a silver cross star in his eye of truth. Li Mingyuan's biological grey light was clearly visible. Luo Yan didn't care about the illusion wolf at all. The current white dragon, the illusion wolf, couldn't tear open the Thousand Mountains phantom shadow. Even if it could break it, it couldn't bite the special armor with the spiral turtle material. The white dragon ran wildly. In the blink of an eye, it was in front of the jade unicorn. Li Mingyuan roared. Regardless of his own state, he released another splitting cloud. This drained his last bit of Yuan Li. It also made his heart twitch violently, and he spit out a mouthful of blood in his helmet. The splitting cloud flew like a cannonball, bombarding the illusion wolf together. With a bang, flames broke out. The illusion wolf was instantly blown into pieces. But the white dragon rushed out of the flames. The thousand mountains around the mecha dimmed, and the outer armor was red, obviously burned by the high temperature of the flames. However, the white dragon did not stop as Li Mingyuan hoped. On the contrary, the engine on the chest of the mecha glowed brightly, and then both arms swung horizontally. Pio-chun finally raised. The sword body exploded with lightning. Drag out a trail of light with fangs and claws. Break through the air. Sweep across the head of Yukilin. In the cab, Li Mingyuan's breathing was rapid, his eyes were horrified. He shouted, "Wait." Then he saw the left side of the cab suddenly shattered. Sunlight shone through the gaps between the fragments. Then a brilliant flash of lightning came. In the lightning, there was a huge blue-black sword body. Li Mingyuan could even see the natural lines formed by the layers of forging on the sword body. Then the vision was torn into pieces. In the distance of the forest, Yang Lekei's breath was choked. Seeing Beilong swinging his sword across, the entire head of Yukilin and the control room were choked with one sword. Countless fragments whistled through the sky, flying several kilometers away, passing over the convoy, finally scattered in the isolated peaks and forests behind. Suddenly, Yang Lexi felt a chill on his forehead. He wiped it off and looked at his palm. It was a deep red. Yang Lexi swallowed his saliva subconsciously and then murmured, "That's good now. No need to collect Li Mingyuan's body." With one sword, the white dragon not only chopped off the enemy plane's head, but also destroyed the cockpit. The mecha pilot inside was naturally shattered to pieces. Chapter 135, Eliminating the Roots. Luo Yan sat on the hillside. The wind was strong here, bringing the smell of green grass. He liked this smell. Below the hillside, gunshots and screams mixed together. It was extremely noisy. Soldiers from Dongguan, Kuo, Yinhua Pharmaceutical, and Lingsitang, working with mechs, made the final crackdown on the camp of the Black Wave Company. Li Mingyuan was dead. The morale of the Black Wave Company had fallen to the bottom. Their resistance was simply ineffective. Soon, the people inside had announced their surrender. But the four companies did not seem to intend to stop. Their real intention was to kill them all. Luo Yan did not think there was anything wrong with this root-out behavior. If it were him, he would not let anyone go. A moment of mercy would often bring many unimaginable consequences. So either don't do it. If you do it, you have to clean it up, and don't leave yourself with trouble. Bang bang bang. Under the strafing of the anti-aircraft machine guns, blood continued to splash in the camp. After a while, almost no sound could be heard inside. At this time, in a tent, a woman shouted, "Don't shoot, we will come out soon." After getting permission, Li Mingyuan's two playthings came out naked. They covered their chests and squatted down. Although the men didn't see anything. But now this appearance makes people more excited. They said pitifully, "We were caught by Mr. Li. Please let us go." Looking at the two women, some men couldn't help but waver. At this time, Yang Lekei walked over with an expressionless face. He shot each of them with a pistol, killed the two women. He looked around and said gloomily, "Why, you don't want to let them go? Or hide them privately for a few days? To do something big?" Better be decisive. Several company leaders hurriedly said no. But in fact, just now, several people did have the idea of hiding a beautiful woman in a golden house on the hillside. Looking at Yang Lixi, Luo Yan deeply lamented the multifaceted nature of people. It is true that one cannot judge a person by his appearance alone. Yang Lixi is a completely different person in the academy and outside of it. Although he still looks a little immature now, he will completely transform if given time. Next, the soldiers of the pharmaceutical company continued to clean up the camp. They set up fire breaks and used flamethrowers to burn the bodies and objects together. Yang Lixi ran to Luo Yan's side and squatted down. He said with a smile, "We have agreed with them. This medicine valley is too big. The area developed by Hiteo company is only less than 1/3 of the medicine valley. They are too greedy. If we don't let others come in, the other medicinal materials in the valley will be wasted." We discussed it and decided to take over the area developed by Hiteo company. In addition, the rest of the area will be open to other companies. However, other companies need to pay 10% of the profits to enter. The money will be distributed among our companies. After all, we drove Hiteo away. It would be unreasonable not to charge an entry fee. As for the distribution of profits, our company accounts for 35% and the rest will be shared by the other 4 companies. But in exchange for the entry fee, we have to provide certain services. And to prevent this medicine valley from being occupied by other companies. Therefore, sufficient military force is needed. We have to leave a few mechs behind. Yang Lixi gestured with his chin, pointing to the mecha that Li Mingyuan had pressed against the tree. I plan to drag this thing back. It's basically not damaged, just the head exploded. Reinstall a new one, and it will come in handy. Then, this mecha will be stationed in the forbidden area permanently, so you don't have to come here every now and then. Classmate Luo. Luo Yan nodded. He didn't want to go to the forbidden area for no reason. Yang Lixi bit a grass stem and stood up and said, "Anyway, this trip was not in vain. When the money for this trip arrives, I will transfer it to your card." Luo Yan said okay, and then said, "I'm going to a place." Yang Lixi didn't ask where it was, and said, "Okay, I'll contact you if there's anything." So, Luo Yan drove the white dragon away. Finding the vicinity of the cave that day, Luo Yan asked the white dragon to kneel on one knee. He walked out of the cab. The wind blew from a distance. In the foggy area deep in the forbidden area, the roar of the giant beast was faintly heard. Luo Yan blinked. The silver cross appeared in his pupils. He looked down. When he left, he used a solitary peak as a mark. Now he has found the area nearby. But without the Eye of True Suchness, it would be difficult to find the cave that day. After all, from a high place, the forest looks the same everywhere. Using the Eye of True Suchness, Luo Yan can intuitively see the distribution of Yuanli. Thus, he found a place where Yuanli is extremely dense. That is where the cave full of Jiuying flowers is. It took some time. He came to the top of the cave, pulled apart the dense vines on the ground, and then pulled up one of them and slid down. It was still the same below. There were Jiuying flowers everywhere. Looking at these strange flowers, Luo Yan felt like he was looking at a floor full of banknotes. Before he landed on the ground, he first discovered a group of grey light. That thing curled up near the small Jiuying he had found before. It noticed Luo Yan, the uninvited guest. It came out of the flowers. It turned out to be a brown bear, but it was more than a circle larger than a normal brown bear, and its eyes were fierce, and its pupils were slightly red. Obviously under the influence of Jiuying, it has begun to mutate. The brown bear roared and pounced towards Luo Yan. Luo Yan raised his rifle expressionlessly, pointed it at its head, and fired a burst of bullets. The brown bear's head burst into pieces, and its short hair flew. But its vitality was extremely tenacious. It was not dead. In Luo Yan's vision, he clearly saw that the brown bear had 481 blood and ki, and after a burst of shooting, it still had more than 300. Ah! The brown bear roared, stood up, and slapped Luo Yan with its 2 huge bear paws. Luo Yan let go of the vines, and fell to the ground. The brown bear slapped nothing. Instead, it exposed its belly to Luo Yan. Luo Yan's pair of red eyes showed no sadness or joy. The splitting star was unsheathed. A faint blue light suddenly lit up in the cave. One by one, the Jiuying flowers flew into the air, and the petals continued to spread and drifted away. The brown bear let out an earth-shattering roar. A huge hole opened in its belly. Luo Yan almost cut it in half with his sword. Even so, blood and organs still poured out like a waterfall. The brown bear's blood and ki dropped sharply. The remaining blood was also disappearing rapidly. The beast staggered. It seemed to want to slap Luo Yan again. Finally, with a plop, it fell in front of Luo Yan. The eyeballs on its head slowly closed, and it finally died. Chapter 136, Breakthrough, Elementary 5th Level. Luo Yan's dinner was bear paws. This thing was not a delicacy he could eat before. Unfortunately, he didn't know how to cook it. There were no tools here. After removing the hair and washing it, grill it over the fire. It tasted so-so. After dinner, Luo Yan took out the Starfire agent and prepared to practice. He first relaxed his body and calmed his mind. After feeling that it was almost done, Luo Yan inhaled the Starfire agent. Then he activated viewing the mountains and seas. Whoosh! Luo Yan seemed to hear the sound of wind. The yuan force in the cave turned like a whirlwind, bid farewell to the static state, and turned into streams of yuan force, rushing straight to Luo Yan. It suddenly crashed into Luo Yan's body. This amount and scale were far beyond the usual. The effect of the Starfire agent was exerted at once. With a bang, Luo Yan's body seemed to rise with a blazing flame, purifying the yuan force that entered his body. Luo Yan's body at this moment was like a dry sponge. The purified yuan force was absorbed by him at once. Under the guidance of his consciousness, it was injected into the designated bone. Starting from the cells, it transformed and tempered the bone. It originally took 2 hours, or even longer, to temper the bone. This time it took less than a quarter of an hour to complete. Luo Yan was delighted. He decisively tempered another bone. Gradually, Luo Yan was immersed in the world of cultivation. In this cave, where the density of yuan force was much higher than other places, the yuan force pouring in from all directions seemed endless. Under the effect of the spark agent, even if the amount was reduced after purification, it was still several times the amount when he usually practiced. Under the continuous infusion of yuan force, Luo Yan's body felt a sense of expansion, but soon, with the injection of yuan force into the bones, this sense of expansion quickly disappeared. Between expansion and contraction, Luo Yan only felt extremely comfortable, as if all the muscles and bones, and even cells in his body, were stretched. This feeling was extremely comfortable. What Luo Yan didn't know was that when he was practicing, the Jiuying flowers in this cave were glowing. The yuan li they gathered all flowed to Luo Yan, so that a yuan li vortex was formed around Luo Yan. Luo Yan was at the center of this vortex, surrounded by the surging yuan li tide. Just like that, Luo Yan took some time to go to the medicine valley every day. The rest of the time he practiced in the cave. A week passed in a blink of an eye. On this day, Luo Yan completed the tempering of the last bone. He started the inner observation method. He saw that all 206 bones in his body had the texture of mountain rocks. The density of the bones was several times that of the past, which made the bone weight increase a lot. This is the so-called heavy bone. With this heavy bone, Luo Yan's physical strength is no longer comparable to that of practitioners of the same level, and the tempering of heavy bones is the sign that the 4th level of observing the mountain and the sea has been completed. At this time, Luo Yan felt a familiar sense of obstacle. It was as if there was an invisible barrier in his body that restricted the growth of yuan li. Luo Yan drove yuan li to collide with this barrier in one go. The impact of the yuan force was fruitless, and it flowed back like a tide, and was stored in the danshan. As more yuan force entered the body, the yuan force in Luo Yan's danshan became more and more. It was like a sea of yuan force, constantly expanding. As the sea of yuan force expanded, waves began to rise on the sea surface. Luo Yan consciously drove this sea of yuan force, and then cooperated with the yuan force that entered his body. He directly raised a terrifying sea wall. This sea wall hit the barrier fiercely. Boom. A buzzing sound sounded in Luo Yan's consciousness, and at the same time, he felt that there were cracks in the barrier. Seeing this, Luo Yan simply focused on absorbing yuan force and expanding that sea area. When the sea of Yuan force expanded more than twice, Luo Yan raised a stormy wave and rushed through the barrier again. This time, the waves of Yuan force hit it. The invisible barrier suddenly made a crackling sound. A large crack spread instantly. The next second, it exploded with a bang. The vast Yuan force in Luo Yan's body was no longer blocked. It broke through the barrier and was injected into Luo Yan's internal organs according to the guidance of the viewing mountains and seas technique. This is the essence of the first 5 levels of viewing mountains and seas. After the skin, flesh, tendons, and bones, the 5th level of viewing mountains and seas is to temper the internal organs of the human body. When the 11 organs, including the internal organs, are tempered to have a jade-like luster, it will be considered a success. Because that is the symbol of Jada. At that time, Luo Yan can choose to break through and then practice the intermediate skills of viewing mountains and seas. He can also temporarily suppress the realm and choose to lay a stronger foundation so that the original thousands of mountains and peaks will transform into 10,000 mountains standing tall, which is the symbol of the first level of viewing mountains and seas. Time passed bit by bit. When Luo Yan felt that the Yuan force in his body was no longer expanding and the Yuan force in the outside world was no longer surging as before, he stopped practicing. After a moment, he opened his eyes. Suddenly, he was stunned. He saw that the whole cave, all the Jiuying flowers, had withered. This. Luo Yan smiled bitterly. It seems that he has been practicing too hard these days. He not only absorbed the Yuanli in the cave, but also the Yuanli stored in the Jiuying flowers. So after a week, although he broke through the realm and advanced, he also consumed all these strange flowers. Forget it. Luo Yan said softly, there are gains and losses. Besides, they made me. It's not a waste. Besides, Luo Yan looked at the small Jiuying. Even if Jiuying was broken, it was worth recycling. Luo Yan was not polite. He immediately picked up the splitting star and the Kaoan wheel and burst out the Yuanli. In the explosion, he was almost blown away by his overflowing Yuanli. Luo Yan found that, after breaking through the realm, his Yuanli almost doubled. At the 5th level of the primary level, the characteristics of watching the mountains and seas began to show. In addition, under the illumination of the Yuanli light, a layer of vague mountain shadows appeared on his skin. The whole person seemed to be protected by a layer of rock armor. The shadow of 1,000 mountains was also much clearer than before. And in the shadow of the 1,000 mountains, there were faint clouds. This shadow added a bit of ethereal and lofty flavor to the majestic and heavy meaning. Luo Yan slowly drew out his long sword and burst out with combat skills. The lightning of splitting star exploded, and as Luo Yan chopped, a silver white thunder exploded on Jiuying. Jiuying was torn into pieces on the spot. Even the ground was charred and cracked. It was the same thunderbolt, but the power was a world of difference compared to when Luo Yan first learned it. This real feeling of having improved significantly and becoming stronger made Luo Yan happy. But then he found that there was no primordial stone fragment in this small Jiuying. I can't help feeling disappointed. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 137 Valuable Items. You've become rich. Yang Lix's voice exploded in Luo Yan's ears. The sound was so loud that Luo Yan almost thought he was going deaf. At this moment, they were on their way back to the academy. The matter of the Forbidden Land had basically come to an end. The Black Wave Company was uprooted. Although they still had personnel in Qingyang City, they were also seriously injured. In the short term, they were unable to retaliate. The medicine valley in the 3rd area of the Forbidden Land is now open to the public. Only 10% of the income is required to enter the valley to collect medicine, and there is no toll and other items. Compared with the Black Wave Company, it is undoubtedly much more generous. Therefore, there is no need to worry about lack of customers. In just a few days, Yang Lixi made a lot of money. He arranged for some personnel to stay in the base as his representatives, and then return to the academy with Luo Yan. Knowing that Luo Yan brought back a batch of Jiuying fragments, Yang Lixi was more excited than Luo Yan and shouted excitedly, "Jiuying! This is Jiuying! Do you know, classmate Luo? It can be exchanged for contribution points. And it's not from the underground city, but from the giant beast strategic palace. The contribution points of the strategic palace can be exchanged for advanced skills, secret skills, training resources, various weapons and even mechs. Among them, the most precious are the God General Mecha and the Primordial Stone Fragment. These two things can't be bought, even if you have money. When you go back, send Yao into the exploration core immediately, and let Captain D report it on your behalf. By the way, you'd better notify Captain D first. Tell him about this, so that the credit will not be taken by others." Luo Yan nodded. Although he knew that the underground city had recovered Jiuying, he didn't know that Jiuying could be exchanged for so many good things. If it was true as Yang Lixi said, he should have said hello to Zeng first. Otherwise, there is a high possibility of accidents. So when he returned to Guangling City, Luo Yang called Zeng, but it turned out that Zai only answered the phone. It turned out that Zeng was not in the underground city these days. He would be back in 2 days. Captain D is not in the underground city? In the car, Yang Lixi thought for a moment and said, "Student Luo, you have to trust me. Just store the Jiuying fragment in my private safe in the bank first. When the captain comes back in 2 days, take it out, and I will deliver it with you." Luo Yan glanced at Yang Lixi and said without hesitation, "Okay." During the time he and Yang Lixi were out, he had a new understanding of this second-year student. Luo Yan felt that Yang Lixi should not be the kind of short-sighted person who would betray him for the sake of the immediate benefits. Moreover, he really couldn't find a place to store Jiuying. Throwing it in the dormitory would make it more likely to cause trouble. So the matter was settled. Arriving at the bank, Yang Lixi hurriedly swiped a supervisor out. The supervisor brought a security team and very carefully delivered the Jiuying fragments that Yang Lixi had packed in a box to the private safe. After doing all this, Luo Yan and Yang Lixi left. It was soon evening. The bank manager came to Yang Lixi's private safe, sent the security away, opened the safe, and came to the box containing Jiuying. "It's okay. If I only take a little, it shouldn't be discovered. I have no choice. If I don't pay back the money, Beitao and his men will chop off my hands. Just take a little, just a little." He opened the box with the label valuables. Suddenly, he was stunned, because it was not the jewelry or gold bars he imagined. Instead, it was a pile of irregular deep things like crystal. "What is this? Crystal? Crystal is not valuable." Young Master Yang said it was a valuable item, which made me think it was jewelry or gold bars. It turned out to be these things. The manager sighed. "It seems that this time, I'm dead." He was about to close the box. Suddenly, he patted his head with his rubber-gloved hand. "Li Chunlei, you are so stupid. Who is Mr. Yang? Would he put some junk in the bank? This must be a rare treasure." Supervisor Li Chunlei immediately picked up a crystal block the size of a child's fist, which was easy to collect, and put it in his pocket. "It's just one piece missing, and these things are all different, so no one will find it." Li Chunlei quickly closed the box and left the bank. He didn't go home. Instead, he came to a small alley and found a pawn shop he often visited. Bang, bang, bang. Li Chunlei knocked hard on the door. The pawn shop, which had no sign and no business license, opened a crack. A pair of triangular eyes stared at the door for a while. Then the door was opened. "Hey, Supervisor Lee, long time no see. I thought you got promoted," a dwarf said in a gloomy tone. Li Chunlei laughed dryly and took out the crystal block wrapped in black cloth. "Manager Tong, I have something to sell. Can you help me see how much it is worth?" The dwarf climbed onto a high chair, took the thing handed over by Li Chunlei, and took out a magnifying glass to study it carefully. "What is this thing? It doesn't look like crystal." Just then, in the magnifying glass, the dwarf saw some breath emerging from the crystal block and vaguely condensed into the shape of a beast. Could it be? The dwarf put down the crystal block and looked at Li Chunlei. "Where did you get this thing?" Li Chunlei said anxiously. "No matter where it comes from, can it be exchanged for money?" The dwarf laughed and said, "It can be, but I want to know its origin." Otherwise, you can find someone else. You are making things difficult for me. Who else dares to accept my things except you? Li Chunlei had no choice but to tell everything. The things stored by Yang Lixi, the son of the director of the construction bureau? The dwarf nodded and gestured. Give me the card. After a moment, Li Chunlei left the pawn shop contentedly. He had never expected that the inconspicuous crystal block could fetch him 100,000 work points. In the pawn shop, the dwarf made a phone call. After the other end said hello, the dwarf said respectfully, Mr. Chen Jiu, I just received an incredible thing. Oh, what is it? Jiuying, a fragment. The phone suddenly became quiet. Asterisk 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 2 days later. In the morning, Luo Yan and Yang Leke came to the bank. Li Chunlei was still the one who received them. When he heard that Yang Leke was going to take out the box that had been stored 2 days ago, Li Chunlei's facial muscles twitched. But he quickly instructed his subordinates to take out the box. Yang Leke opened it and took a look, but did not find that a piece was missing, and nodded to Luo Yan. The two took the box and left. After they left, Li Chunlei almost collapsed in his chair. Fortunately, young Master Yang didn't notice that there was a piece missing. Strange, what on earth is that? Shopkeeper Tong seems very interested. He actually gave me 20,000 work points and told me to call young Master Yang when he comes to pick it up. Snap. Li Chunlei slapped his forehead. I almost forgot about this. He quickly took out his cell phone. Chapter 138. The evil ones complain first. The winter day was very noisy. Yang Leke drove his convertible sports car, wearing sunglasses and dressed very fancy. He smelled of a faint cologne. He knew perfume well, and knew that the essence was to leave the last note. This allowed Luo Yan, who was sitting next to him, to at least not cover his nose. Behind them, there was a business car. Yang Leke's company assistant acted as the driver, and in the car was Luo Yan's box full of Jiuying fragments. Student Luo, what do you think of my sports car? Yang Leke said loudly. Luo Yang nodded perfunctorily. He didn't know much about cars, let alone this expensive sports car. He was born in a poor family, and his family's means of transportation were either an electric car or a bicycle. For him, a sports car was naturally great. Yang Leke patted the steering wheel and said, later, after going to the core, I'll take the one behind to go back. This one is yours. Luo Yan was stunned. Then he shook his head. He didn't like being so high profile. Moreover, he was worried that Yang Leke would use the car to pay dividends. Yang Lixi said loudly, don't worry, this car is a welfare of our company. You should get the same amount of money as you should. Also, don't think it's too high profile. I tell you, sometimes people should be high profile when they should be. High profile can reduce a lot of trouble. At least when you drive this car out, people will know that you have some status. Those who originally wanted to cause trouble for you should think twice. This will help you avoid a lot of unnecessary troubles. Are you right? Luo Yan was stunned. He really didn't understand this kind of knowledge. Because he and Yang Lixi were not from the same class. At the moment, he felt that what he said seemed to make sense. That's it. Yang Lixi took advantage of the situation and struck. While the iron was hot, he stuffed the car into Luo Yan's hands. At the same time, he thought to himself, the mouth of the person who eats is grateful, and the hand of the person who takes is soft. I'm trying my best to stuff the benefits into Luo's hands. If the goddess confesses to Luo in the future, Luo will remember my kindness. I'm sure he'd be embarrassed to agree. What's this trick called? Forget it, whatever it's called. Anyway, Yang Lixi, you're such a talent. Luo Yan glanced at Yang Lixi next to him. Seeing him laugh for no apparent reason, he thought that maybe the senior was sick. At this moment, one black car after another passed by them. The first 3 cars suddenly overtook them, drove far ahead and stopped. They lined up in a row, blocking their way. Yang Lixi immediately put away his smile and frowned. What's going on? At the same time, he noticed that there were security department logos on those cars. He had to slow down and slowly pull over. The remaining few cars of the security department turned over and stopped nearby, forming an encirclement. Luo Yan subconsciously clenched the splitting star next to him. Then he saw that the doors of the vehicles of the security department opened, and men in black clothes, glasses, and headphones on their ears surrounded Yang Lixi's sports car and the commercial vehicle behind. "Get out of the car. Everyone, get out quickly," a middle-aged man who looked like the action team leader shouted loudly, foaming at the mouth, which was very scary. Yang Lixi stood up. "What are you doing? What do you mean by stopping our car? I'm Yang Lixi. My father is Yang Zhen, the director of the construction bureau." The action team leader snorted and said, "Your father is the director of the construction bureau, so I'm also the mayor of Guangling. Whatever you say, it is. Don't talk nonsense. Get out quickly. We received a report. Your car is hiding prohibited items. Here is a search warrant. We want to search the car." He showed a document, but before anyone could see it clearly, he put it away again. Yang Lixi said with a gloomy face, "Don't slander us. Where did the prohibited items come from in our car? Don't mess around, otherwise, I will sue you for violating private property." As he spoke, he took out his mobile phone. He wanted to make a call. Unexpectedly, the call could not be made. The signal was blocked. "You blocked the signal?" Yang Lixi shouted. "This is illegal. I have the right to confirm your identity with the security department." The action team ignored him and shouted, "Take the people back to the bureau. If there is resistance, one warning, 2 shots." At this time, some security officers have set up machine guns on the roof of the car, pointing the guns at Luo Yan and his men. Several of them even smashed the windows of the commercial vehicle and forced the door open. Then they moved the box down, opened it. The fragments of Jiuying were immediately exposed to the air. The action team leader's eyes lit up. Then he shouted, "Do you dare to quibble? This is a fragment of Jiuying. It is an item that civilians are not allowed to collect. If you find Jiuying, you must report it to the underground city immediately. And all Jiuying should belong to the underground city. Now I suspect that you are involved in buying and selling contraband. Be honest and follow me." Yang Lixi closed his eyes slightly and took off his sunglasses. "I understand. You knew what was in my car. You also knew who I was. That's why you prepared the signal blocking device in advance, so that I can't call for help. Okay, when did the security department become a robber? This is openly robbing other people's property, and you also accuse me of a crime. This is a villain complaining first. You are really good at it. You know how to play it. I'll say it again. I'm Yang Lixi. Yang Zhen is my father. I'll see who dares to touch my things." In the car, Luo Yang nodded secretly. If something happened, Yang Lixi would really go up, instead of distancing himself from it. This surprised him. However, Jiuying is his own. There is no reason to let Yang Lixi bear it alone. So Luo Yang stood up. His red eyes. He looked at the action leader. A silver cross appeared above the action leader's head. A line of information appeared. Shilei, 41 years old, leader of Group 3 of the Special Operations Section of the Security Department. Then, Luo Yan read his thoughts. This kid surnamed Yang is really a problem. Fortunately, the people above are determined to get this box of Jiuying. Afterwards, they can accuse him of manslaughter and push someone out to take the blame. 2 guys and a driver. It won't take much time to kill them. Luo Yan's eyes turned cold. This is the senior management of the security department somehow knew that Yang Lixi had a box of Jiuying. They wanted to stop it and take it for themselves. And for this, they would not hesitate to kill people. Explosion. Without any signs, Luo Yan's yuanli rose, and circles of fluctuation spread. As soon as he came up, Luo Yan used the Kaoan wheel. He released explosive yuanli and the undisguised murderous intent. Chapter 139. Dead people are the safest. Since he knew that these people wanted to kill him, Luo Yan would not wait for the other side to attack before fighting back. Wouldn't that be a waste of time? As for how to explain it later, that would be after he survived. For Luo Yan, staying alive was more important than anything else. He suddenly sprinted. When he passed by Yang Liji, he whispered a reminder, "Can't be." Shilei, the action team leader, did not expect that a young man in the same car with Yang Liji would dare to take the initiative to attack. Over the years, He relied on his identity as the head of the security department to create many unjust and false cases. The people he met were scared by his yelling and scaring. Even if they were still calm, they would never dare to attack a serious official like him. Luo Yan's case today can be said to be a unique case. Xilei was able to become the action team leader. He was quite capable. He shouted loudly and also urged his Yuanli. He put his palms together and used the skill of catching a blade with his bare hands. A pair of iron palms made a bang. He caught the splitting star. He made a hasty move, but was still able to catch Luo Yan's sword. It can be seen that he has some real skills. Unfortunately, he didn't know Luo Yan's background. He didn't know the characteristics of splitting star. So he caught the long sword with both hands. Xilei felt the long sword tremble violently in his palms. Then the exposed sword body in front of him, covered with dark blue lines, suddenly burst and exploded. Pieces of irregular fragments drag out dark blue light marks, like flowers in full bloom, outlined a dazzling trajectory. Some of those fragments passed Xilei's face. Some hit his eyes. Some cut his throat. The operators behind Xilei saw their team leader trembling all over, and blood spurted out continuously. A moment later, he passed away. The road was quiet. Such a result. They didn't expect it. Before they went out, they only knew that Xilei had ordered that this morning's action would not be recorded in the field records. Any action that is not recorded in the archives usually means that there is money to be made. These operators have already decided which bar to go to for a drink and which club to go to get a beautiful woman. But no one would have thought that their team leader would be the first to die in this action. Their minds went blank for a while. Then someone shouted, "Shoot!" Gunshots rang out on the highway. Bullets whizzed in from all directions, but when they came near Luo Yan and his men, they hit an invisible barrier, which caused ripples, but never broke through the barrier. Yang Likai had already raised the empty wall, and there were several of them. One was afraid of death. When the splitting star was reorganized, Luo Yan dragged his sword and retreated. He joined Yang Likai. Yang Likai shouted, "What should we do now?" "Clear the field and kill them all." "Do you know the Phantom Wolf?" Luo Yan said as he began to form seals. Yang Lixi also formed the hand seal corresponding to the illusion wolf. "Are you really not going to leave any alive?" Luo Yan seemed to remember something, and a strange light flashed in his eyes, and then he said, "Only the dead will not be framed." Yang Lixi suddenly realized, if they were here, they would show mercy and leave one or two alive. Afterwards, the survivors would just bite the two of them to death, avoid the main issue, and never mention the robbery of Jiuying. He and Luo Yan would probably be put on trial. After thinking this through, Yang Lixi formed the hand seal 3 times faster. Soon, 2 illusion wolves appeared and pounced on the agents. They bit, tore, and snatched guns, creating chaos. Seeing this, Luo Yan was about to take the opportunity to move out. Yang Lixi shouted, "Wait a moment." After a moment, Luo Yan's body glowed faintly, and the shadow of armor vaguely formed. This is a number 9 mystical art, iron armor. It works like a mobile version of empty wall. As soon as the iron armor was put on, Luo Yan flashed out. With the help of the explosion of the Koan wheel, he was as fast as a ghost, crashing into the personnel of the security department, splashing blood on the operators one by one. At this time, Luo Yan had a clear and visible phantom of 1,000 mountains around his body. Its thick and solid meaning could not be broken even by the bullets of the automatic pistol. Only the power of the rifle forced Luo Yan to evade. Soon, most of the operators in the third group had died. When Luo Yan took action, there were never serious injuries, only deaths. These operators either had their necks cut open or their chests pierced. All of them were fatal injuries. Passing by the dead, Luo Yan's face, body, and sword were all covered with blood. At this moment, he was like a Shura walking out of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. The murderer Sora was soaring. Finally, an operator was scared and shouted, "Don't kill me, I surrender." The splitting star passed by, and a head flew up. "We were wrong. We shouldn't have listened to the team leader and come to rob you of your things." A cold light flashed, and his neck was bleeding. "We are from the security department. If you kill me, it will be very troublesome." The sword in his chest quickly turned red. Luo Yan's eyes were cold, without any emotion. He ignored the pleas for mercy, confessions, and threats of these operators. Yang Likai released another phantom wolf, helped Luo Yan relieve a lot of pressure. He took the time to look around. There were corpses everywhere. Soon, the two operators who moved out of Jiuying. They looked pale, dropped the box, and got into a car. The door was about to close. A hand pressed on the door. The door did not move. The hand had 5 slender fingers, and blood dripped from the fingertips. The door opened. Luo Yan got into the car. The battle was over. On the road, there were 12 corpses lying in all directions, including in the car. Luo Yan was wiping the blood on his hands with a cloth. Of course, it can't be wiped clean. He doesn't really care. Yang Liji comforted his assistant. Poor assistant, he was frightened by the scene, and lost control of his bladder. Now he was huddled in the business car and shivering, wiping the blood off his hands. Luo Yan found the signal shielding device. After destroying it, he took out his mobile phone and called Zeng. Yang Liji also called his father to explain the situation. Not long after, siren whistled. One after another, the vehicles of the local security bureau surrounded the scene. Seeing the bodies in the cars on the road, the personnel of the local security bureau almost fell to the ground when they saw this scene. Even the action of pointing guns at Luo Yan and others was constantly trembling. Luo Yan and Yang Liji sat together. They raised the empty wall. They didn't explain. They just confronted the local security bureau. Not long after, other vehicles arrived. This road to the headquarters of the Exploration Corps probably has never been so lively. It was blocked by many vehicles. A member of the security department came over, showed his ID. He said loudly, "I'm Lin Yu, secretary of the security department's office. I now suspect that you two are involved in the murder of members of my department's team. Please come back with me." Before he finished speaking, someone said in a low voice, "Who dares to take my son, Yang Zhen, away?" Chapter 140, inherited from the same bloodline. Several figures squeezed into the crowd. The secretary of the security minister saw them and couldn't help but frown. He naturally recognized them. The middle-aged man walking in front, wearing a black long coat, with a standing collar and a carefully trimmed beard, was the director of the construction bureau, Yang Zhen. Next to Yang Zhen, another middle-aged man with grey hair, glasses, and a harmless smile was the Minister of Network Information, Fang Yao. Lin Yu still remembered that when he had just taken office, Minister Wu Shima gave him a list of people who must not be provoked by the security department. One of the names was Fang Yao. Lin Yu still doesn't understand what kind of support a Minister of Information has that makes his immediate superior unwilling to offend or provoke him. As for Yang Zhen, he was not on the list. Yang Likai saw his father coming and immediately stood up. He pulled Luo Yan. "My dad is here, so it's okay." "Oh, Uncle Fang is here too. What a rare guest." Luo Yan didn't know which one was Uncle Fang. However, Yang Zhen did recognize him. The father and son of the Yang family had a very similar appearance. It can be said that after Yang Likai reached middle age, he looked like his father. As soon as Yang Zhen arrived, he was the first to attack. "Why did your security department take my son away? Hey, you still have the nerve to say that? Tell me why your security department stopped my son. You even pointed guns. You are so awesome. Why is it your security department that can walk sideways in Guangling City? You even dared to point guns at my son. It's not hard to imagine what your attitude is towards the people." Lin Yu, the secretary of the security department, hurriedly explained. At this time, the grey-haired information minister came over. He looked at Yang Lixi with a smile and said, "You dare to kill people now. You have made great achievements. When your father told me, I didn't believe it." Yang Lixi waved his hands. "No, no, no, Uncle Fang. You don't know me yet. How dare I? Student Luo killed the person. At most, I just helped him." Fang Yao looked at Luo Yan and saw that he was covered in blood. His squinting eyes opened a little. In an instant, Luo Yan's whole body was numb, as if he was being stared at by his natural enemy. The heavy pressure made his body shake. Then he broke out in a cold sweat. His vision was slightly blurred. The voice of Yang Lixi beside him seemed to come from a long distance. This feeling. It was the first time for him. Fortunately, this feeling came and went quickly. Soon Luo Yan had returned to normal. Then he heard Yang Zhen shouting angrily, "What's wrong with my son killing people? You are pointed at by so many guns, why don't you do it? Then there will definitely be casualties if you do it. Don't you understand that swords have no eyes? Anyway, if you want to take him away, then just take me away too. But don't blame me for not warning you. If you want to take me away, find out who my father is first." Luo Yan suddenly understood. Yang Liji always likes to put his father on the stage. Who did he learn it from? This is a continuation of the same lineage. Lin Yu was in a state of panic. He had heard that the director of the construction bureau, Yang Zhen, was protective of his son and liked to make trouble. When he saw him today, he was indeed as famous as he was. At this time, someone else came, and the people from the security department and the local protection bureau were as if they were facing a great enemy. They all stepped back and let a group of people in. It was the people of the exploration corps, led by Liang Jian. There were about 50 people, fully armed. They strode in. They came near Lin Yu. As soon as they arrived, Liang Jian shouted, "Who gave your security department the courage to rob our core supplies and detain the core pilots?" After this ad was put on, Lin Yu knew that there was no hope for today. He was also complaining in his heart, because Shilei's group had no action record at all. He had no idea why they intercepted Yang Zhen's son and made such a big fuss. Now, not only did they drag down the construction bureau, but the Minister of Information also came to the scene. Now the exploration corps has also come. Lin Yu felt that he could not end it. On the other side, the three parties confronted each other. There was a loud noise. On this side, Fang Yao smiled and said, "Student Luo, can you let me see your hand?" Luo Yan looked confused. He had no idea why this person was still in the mood to look at his hand now. Besides, what was he looking at his hand for? Could he read palms? Yang Likai next to him seemed to know something, and as if he was afraid of missing the opportunity, he grabbed Luo Yan's hand and said, "Uncle Fang, look, you can look at it casually." Fang Yao first held Luo Yan's palm, squeezed it, and pressed it. Then he raised his palm and pressed it back. After a while, Fang Yao let go of Luo Yan's hand and smiled without saying anything. Yang Lixi leaned over and said, "How is it, Uncle Fang? Is Luo the person you are looking for?" Fang Yao did not respond, looked forward, and then walked over to Yang Zhen. At this time, the matter over there seemed to be resolved. Yang Zhen walked over and grabbed Yang Lixi's ear. "Stinky boy, you are always causing trouble for me. Come back with me." Yang Lixi shouted, "Dad, give me some face in public. I'll slap you. Come with me." Yang Lixi shouted, "Luo, I won't accompany you to the corps headquarters. Remember to drive the car away." After the father and son left, Liang Jian of the exploration corps also came over and took a look at the box of Yaoyin next to him. He whispered, "Come back to the headquarters with me first. On the way, I learned from Liang Jian that this time the security department was under pressure from the exploration corps and Yang Zhen. It took a step back and agreed to treat this matter as an accident. However, Luo Yan and Yang Li were placed under house arrest. During this period, they cannot leave Guangling City and need to cooperate with the investigation. In addition, although they were judged to be acting in legitimate defense, they were suspected of excessive defense. Therefore, they will be fined. The specific amount will be known later. After that, Liang Jian said, "Don't worry. There's something fishy about this. Someone in the security department must have known about your bringing back Jiuying. That's why this fuss happened. Next, they should handle it coldly. Make a big deal out of a small matter, and a small matter out of nothing. Otherwise, it will really get out of hand. The security department might get into trouble. But in this way, the relationship between the corps and them will become more tense." However, Liang Jian smiled. "Our relationship is not friendly to begin with. It doesn't matter if it gets a little more tense. But because of your incident, the corps will come forward to deal with it. So your Jiuying, when it is converted into contribution points of the strategic mansion, can only take 70%. The remaining 30% belongs to the corps to offset the expenses of coming forward for you this time." Luo Yan nodded. "There is no free lunch in the world. The core can't always handle troubles for him for free. Moreover, this time, the union involved is not the core supplies. A certain amount of compensation will be charged. Luo Yan thinks it is reasonable. Chapter 141, Suicide out of fear of crime. Bank. Li Chunlei was humming a little tune in his office. He felt so happy. 2 days 120,000 work points. Not only did he clear Beitao's account these past few nights, he also stayed overnight in Jiuying. There were several beautiful girls waiting on him. Li Chunlei felt that his life had reached its peak. Who should I have by my bed tonight? Meng Meng or Yeo Yeo? Thinking of the girls in Jiuying, Li Chunlei suddenly felt itchy. At this time, there was a knock on the door. Someone said, "Manager, you have a guest." Who? Li Chunlei said slowly. "Mr. Tong." "Shopkeeper Tong?" Li Chunlei quickly stood up. "Please come in." The door opened. The dwarf shopkeeper of the nameless pawn shop walked in with 2 men in black. Li Chunlei's eyes lit up. This shopkeeper was his lucky star. Li Chunlei quickly served tea. He drank 3 cups. Shopkeeper Tong said with a smile, "Mr. Li, have you had a pleasant time these 2 days?" "Very pleasant." Li Chunlei whispered, "Please take care of me in the future, Shopkeeper Tong." Sure. Shopkeeper Tong smiled and narrowed his eyes. He took out a small porcelain bottle from his pocket and put it on the table and said, "This is a Langyang powder I asked my friend to get. After eating it, fighting 7 women at night is no problem." Li Chunlei said, "Oh," and his eyes lit up. "Knowing that Manager Li needs it recently, I sent it specially." Shopkeeper Tong pushed the small porcelain bottle over. Li Chunlei laughed and said, "How can I be so embarrassed? You're welcome, we are old friends." Shopkeeper Tong whispered again, "By the way, it's best to take this thing now. At this time, taking aphrodisiacs is the best effect." "Really?" Li Chunlei took it and felt a little embarrassed. "Then let me try it." He poured out the powder and drank it with water. The taste was not fragrant or smelly. Put down the cup. Li Chunlei wiped his mouth and said, "Shopkeeper Tong, what exactly is that treasure of young Master Yang?" Shopkeeper Tong smiled and said, "Yaoyin, a precious item. Many big shots are vying for it. That's why I bothered you, Manager Li, to tip him off today. Otherwise, how could the people from the security department stop young Master Yang in time? What a pity. They were going to kill young Master Yang and take his treasure. Unexpectedly, they killed him instead." Li Chunlei's face changed. He didn't expect that he would be involved in such a terrible thing. His legs suddenly became weak. He thought that Yang Lixi would investigate and would definitely find out about him. He quickly stood up and wanted to ask Shopkeeper Tong to protect him. Unexpectedly, as soon as he stood up, his legs became weak and his head sank. He sat down on the ground. He looked at Shopkeeper Tong and felt that his eyelids were getting heavier and heavier. "You?" Shopkeeper Tong drank tea slowly. "Yes, that is not Langyang powder at all, but dumbing powder. Manager Li knows too much. The big shots above are worried that you can't keep your mouth shut." Helpless, I can only ask Manager Li to commit suicide out of fear of crime. "Look, I have written the suicide note for you." "Tong, isn't that thoughtful?" Shopkeeper Tong put on gloves, took out a paper bag from his pocket, took out a letter, and put it in Li Chunlei's hand. He deliberately asked Li Chunlei to hold it in his hand so that fingerprints would be left on the envelope. Then he left with 2 men. The whole process, Li Chunlei couldn't say a word. He couldn't hold on any longer. He closed his eyes. It was suddenly dark in front of him. Explore the core headquarters. Luo Yang met Li Zeng. The core commander with a stern face said, "Yaoyin is of great value, and many people in the city are thinking about it. But there are not many people who are qualified to take Yaoyin back. That's why you were intercepted this time. This is not the first time something like this has happened. However, they dared to reach out to the family members of the officials in the underground city. It's the first time. In my opinion, there is something wrong with that bank manager. But it's probably too late to confront him now." Luo Yan nodded. Since the other party dared to touch even Yang Lixi, he must be extremely powerful. Presumably, that bank manager has been silenced. Di Zeng said lightly, "It's better if he's dead. Otherwise, if we investigate further, it may not be a good thing." Luo Yan's eyes moved slightly. Dizeng did not continue the topic. Instead, he said, I will hand over Yain to the strategic office as soon as possible, but it will take some time to issue the contribution points. You must wait patiently. Luo Yan nodded. At this moment, suddenly, the alarm sounded. Then the phone in front of Dizeng's desk rang. Dizeng answered the phone and then turned on the projection screen on the wall with a gloomy face. On the screen, there was a picture of the surface. There seemed to be dust rising behind the forest in the distance of the Great Lakes. Dizeng put down the phone and said, a giant beast was found approaching the underground city. Each class team should prepare to attack. You go and report. Yes. Luo Yan ran out of the office and ran to his team's attack point amid the alarm. Dizeng went to the command center. As he walked, his headset kept ringing. The identity of the giant beast has been confirmed. Giant code, Mengji. Level, advanced level 2. Type, caterpillar. Features, steel skin, ice control, invisibility, and corpse control. Weakness is unknown. On the other side, the attack point of the 4th team of the 3rd class. When Luo Yan arrived, Yan Wenbo and others were a little surprised, but they didn't say anything. The pale captain just said, sit down quickly. Now we are going to the fast attack patio. Then he showed an expression of listening attentively. Then he said, fortunately, our mission is to stay behind the defense line. Today, the 3rd squad of the 2nd shift is on duty, and they will be the first to meet the attack. Dugu Changson snorted, we don't have a share of good things. Kang Shun next to him smiled and said, it is also important to defend the rear defense line. Yan Wenbo also said, the behemoth coming this time is not simple. It's a high-level behemoth, Mengji. Dugu Changson hit his fist and said, that's how it's exciting. Take care of some low-level and mid-level behemoths every day. It's not difficult at all. Liu Yan whispered, childish. Dugu Changson surprisingly did not refute. Soon, they arrived at the attack skylight. They boarded their respective mechs. In the team communication channel, Kang Shun smiled and said, this is Xiao Luo's first time using the attack skylight. My personal experiences. Don't be nervous, breathe through your mouth. Luo Yan put on his helmet and answered with a HMM. While waiting for the skylight number, Luo Yan turned on a light screen. On the screen, suspended on the command console, you can see that the various tanks, artillery positions, and missile launchers of the base have been deployed. At this time, finally, a grey shadow appeared on the screen. Luo Yan enlarged the image and saw a giant beast that looked like a leopard. It was grey and white, with green eyes and black spots on its body. Those spots were constantly changing slightly. When you enlarge these spots, you will find that they are human faces. However, these human faces are pitch black, and they keep making all kinds of ferocious expressions. Looking at the giant beast again, it exudes wisps of white smoke, and wherever it passes, the earth and trees are condensed with frost. Moreover, the ground keeps bulging, as if something is about to come out from underground. Chapter 142 White Dragon, Attack. Classic of Mountains and Seas, Northern Mountains says, the beast is like a leopard, but with a white body, named Mengji, and is good at hiding. Its cry is self-proclaimed. In the Classic of Mountains and Seas, Mengji is a beast that looks like a leopard. Its body is white with stripes, and it is good at hiding. This is very similar to the giant beast that Luo Yan saw on the screen at this time. No wonder it was named Mengji. Among the giant beasts, Mengji's body is considered petite. So in terms of level, it is only a level 2 beast. Even so, Mengji's height is still more than 40 meters. If a person stands up, it is probably equivalent to the height of a Zhuangji. Where it passes, the ground is frost, forming a white cold belt. And in this cold belt, on the nearby land, the ground keeps cracking, and something drills out from it. Luo Yan zoomed in on one of the partial pictures. Then he saw that what drilled out of the ground was actually a highly rotten bison corpse. It seemed to be summoned by an invisible force, returning from the underworld, leaving the rotten leaves and soil that wrapped its body. It exposed its bones, fur that had not been completely decomposed, and organs without moisture to the air. There were many similar things. Bison, antelope, wild boar, wolves, dogs, birds, and even humans. All kinds of corpses crawled out of the earth and returned to the world again. When the camera zoomed out, it could be seen that Mengji was surrounded by densely packed corpses around and behind him. The number was so large that it was outrageous. Thousands of corpses numbly and mechanically followed the body of the giant beast, heading to the unknown distance. This is Mengji's ability to control corpses. It can summon those dead corpses and transform them into its own soldiers. The voice of the Captain Yan Wenbo sounded in the team channel. Then team member Liu Yan said, "Now it seems that it is really good that we don't have to fight Mengji. I have intensive phobia." Kang Shun laughed and then whispered, "Why don't we let everyone attack together? Wouldn't it be more efficient?" Du Guchangxin sneered and said, "So you transfer students should really go back to the academy to study again. Didn't the teacher tell you in the tactics class that the more mechs involved in the attack, the easier it is to make mistakes? What's the use of having more people? There is only one giant beast. How many people can attack it at the same time? Besides, if everyone attacks the same target, what if the second and third giant beasts appear at this time?" Kang Shun smiled and didn't respond. After a moment, he added, "If it's a high-level situation, if Captain D takes action, it should be resolved quickly, right?" Yan Wenbo said softly. That being said, the entire underground city can't always rely on Captain D alone, right? Like a few days ago, he left the underground city on a mission. At that time, even if the underground city was in danger, he couldn't get back. So Captain D will only go out when the situation is out of control. Otherwise, he will command at the base so that other mecha masters have the opportunity to hone their skills. Although you will get injured and die in the process. But everyone has gone through this. So there is a saying that, if you are afraid of death, don't be a mecha master. Because we have to deal with the god of death every day. At this time, a window popped up on Liu Yan's screen. Their team was about to enter the attack patio. Asterisk 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 a car stopped at the door of the bank. Yang Leke had a gloomy face and rushed into the bank with a team of people. "Where is Li Chunlei? Let him get out." He didn't go home. After explaining the situation to his father halfway, he dispatched a team of people to the bank to settle accounts with Li Chunlei, transport Jiuying back to the underground city, and then send him to the exploration core. During this process, apart from him and Liu Yan, the only one who had the opportunity to contact Jiuying was Li Chunlei. Yang Lixi almost lost his life because of this in the morning. Now he was full of anger. He had already thought that, as long as it was confirmed that Li Chunlei leaked the information, no matter what, he would beat this bastard first. The reason why he didn't kill him was because this was the underground city, not the surface. Secondly, he had to find out the mastermind through Li Chunlei. In addition, in order to prevent the same accident from happening again, this time, Yang Zhen transferred his ace bodyguard to protect his precious son closely. Because of the Behemoth alarm, the bank basically stopped operating. But the staff were still there. Hearing that Yang Lixi was looking for Li Chunlei, the Jin and security guard not only did not dare to stop him, but also took the initiative to lead the way. When he came to Li Chunlei's office, Yang Lixi kicked the door open with a flying kick. "Li Chunlei, get out of here," he shouted. Yang Lixi strode in, but unexpectedly, he saw Li Chunlei lying on the ground. He was stunned for a moment. Then he made a gesture. Someone came forward to check. "Young master, he's dead," Yang Lixi said unhappily. "Young master is not dead, I'm fine." He then narrowed his eyes. "Is this guy dead?" The subordinate nodded. "He's dead." Then, he picked up a letter held by Li Chunlei. "Open it," Yang Lixi said. A moment later, a suicide note appeared in front of Yang Lixi. In the suicide note, Li Chunlei admitted that he was possessed by evil spirits and had evil thoughts and stole a piece of Jiuying. Fearing that Yang Lixi would settle accounts with him later, he took medicine to commit suicide. "Nonsense," Yang Lixi said without thinking. "When I came here in the morning, this guy was very happy. He didn't look like he was going to commit suicide. Damn it. We are a step too late. Li Chunlei committed suicide. Well, you want to cut off the clues? You wish." Yang Lixi pointed at the body. "Go, send the body to forensic Dr. Zhang and ask him to do an autopsy immediately." see what medicine Lee took, and then trace the source of the poison. I don't believe we can't find any clues. Also, have someone watch over it at Forensic Dr. Zhang, and don't let the people from the security department interfere. I'll go to the local security bureau to say hello. Spread the word. Whoever dares to interfere, I will treat him as an accomplice, and if I can't kill him, I will bite a piece of meat off him. At this moment, suddenly, the underground city shook slightly. The lights flickered. Then they went out. The lights in the whole city were turned off. The power supply was temporarily stopped to provide it for the attack skylight. Attack skylight, cabin 7. The fixed bracket has been docked, and the mecha is completely fixed. Final self-inspection of the attack route of cabin 7. Inspection completed. The line is unobstructed. Sufficient power. In the voices, Luo Yan felt a little nervous. This was the first time to use the attack skylight. In the team channel, Kang Shun smiled and said, Zio Luo, relax. Remember my previous advice? Luo Yan squeezed out 2 words in his throat. Remember. Then he heard the broadcast. Cabin 7 is ready to attack. The countdown begins. 10, 9, 8, 3, 2, 1. Cabin 7, Mecha White Dragon, attack. Chapter 143 The current state of humanity. Boom. Even with the mecha partition, the harsh metal noise still came, causing Luo Yan's eardrums to hurt, as if he heard the sharp sound of nails scraping on a blackboard. Then he felt as if he was being pressed to the ground. Luo Yan's vision suddenly blurred. He couldn't breathe. But he remembered Kang Shun's reminder. So Luo Yan opened his mouth wide and inhaled hard. This finally made him relax. But he still felt his stomach churning. Usually, more than 10 seconds would pass in a flash. But now, more than 10 seconds became extremely long. Finally, Luo Yan felt the speed of the attack cabin slow down and finally stop slowly. Through the panoramic window, he saw the pressure device was working, with the rumbling sound of the hydraulic machine. The door of the attack cabin finally opened. Luo Yan's eyes lit up, causing him to squint slightly, and then he controlled the mecha, and walked out of the attack cabin. He saw Dugu Changxin's Fidian on his left. From the right, the Captain Yan Wenbo's mecha, embroidered tiger walked out. This mecha has a slender appearance, and is painted in red, gold and silver. The overall feeling is gorgeous, even a little exaggerated. Then, Liu Yan's Veep and Kang Shun's judge came out one after another. The former has large brown robe-colored vertical stripes on its body, and is also distributed with yellow and white fine lines, which is very camouflaged. The latter has a black body and a classical shape, like a black-faced judge. Yan Wenbo was about to say something. Suddenly, a fire lit up in front, and then the shockwave of the explosion swept over, blowing the trees to the direction of the Great Lakes. There were also pieces of rocks and big trees flying in the wind, hitting the mecha. It turned out that the chariot group and artillery used by the underground city to contain the giant beast had already opened fire. Hundreds of chariots and artillery positions, with full firepower, sent dense artillery fire to the giant beast Mengji. The giant beast was not in a hurry, and drove the corpses around it to quickly combine, forming a series of bone tornadoes, blocking many artillery fires. The earth was shaking. The lake was churning. Although the direction of the giant beast was bursting with fireballs like fireworks, the giant beast was not even a piece of skin blown up. In the dense artillery fire, missiles were launched one after another, dragging clear flames, crossing the sky above the forest, and whistling down towards the giant beast. At this time, more than a dozen tentacles made of bones passed through the artillery fire, and rolled into the air. They rolled up the missiles, and threw them at the vehicles and artillery formations. One by one, the missiles fell near the vehicles and artillery formations, and the flames at the tail sprayed, and they fell directly into the vehicles and artillery formations. Suddenly, pieces of flames expanded and rose, as if dozens of volcanoes erupted at the same time, and the energy shock formed instantly rose to a terrifying index. Even the mechas at the rear needed to be well protected, and the slender models like the embroidered tiger were pushed back by the blast. This wave of explosions almost paralyzed the vehicles and artillery formations. Then, those tentacles made of corpses and bones were entangled with each other. They formed a giant nearly 100 meters tall. This giant made of corpses and bones staggered towards the vehicle group and artillery vehicle. In 3 or 2 steps, it had already reached the vicinity, and then the giant fell down, and the corpses scattered, turning into a grey torrent. The grey tide rolled, washing the human tank group and artillery positions. Countless corpses continued to hit the fragile bunkers, or the windshields of the tanks. Under the pressure of a large number of corpses, the bunkers were broken, and the glass burst. Those corpses poured into the bunkers, and squeezed into the tanks. For a while, everyone's vision was filled with countless rotting corpses. Screams suddenly rang out in the tanks and bunkers. The soldiers tried desperately to escape from the pile of corpses, but there was no way to escape. Countless corpses squeezed and squirmed. Soon their organs were broken due to the squeezing, and even their bones were squeezed and deformed. The grey tide was like a meat grinder, strangling a large number of humans, and squeezing out blood, adding a few bright colors to the grey tide. In the cockpit of the White Dragon, Luo Yan's breathing was slightly heavy. He felt the oppression brought by the high-level behemoth directly. The behemoth itself did not move. Just controlling the corpse caused such damage. At this time, fire dragons swept through the grey tide, burning the corpses with a sizzling sound and a lot of thick smoke. Luo Yan looked. Several mechs appeared on the front line. They began to clean up the corpses. On the left side of the command console, a holographic window opened. It showed that the 3rd team of the 2nd class had entered the battlefield. The battle to annihilate the behemoth began. In the window, the list of mecha divisions of the 3rd team of the 2nd class was displayed. The captain of this team was Wu Jin, with 3 members and a reserve pilot. The reserve pilot was the sophomore Xing. Luo Yan didn't have much impression of this senior. He just remembered that he was a classmate of Yang Likei and Liu Ruohan. At this time, the 3rd team of the 2nd class, Captain Wu Jin said calmly, Dingsheng, you and Shishi stay behind and be responsible for clearing the corpses. The rest of you follow me. Be alert. This is a high-level beast. After the battle begins, keep moving. Don't let the opponent freeze your body. Also, prepare the developing bomb and use it immediately when the beast becomes invisible. Be careful, but don't be afraid. Today, we will take this beast and add another achievement to our 3 teams' military merits. The team members agreed loudly. At this time, the beast's eyes flashed with light. Then, all the black faces on its body spewed out dark, illusory smoke. The smoke did not rise wildly, but condensed to form something like a barrier. This black barrier spread outward and enveloped Mengji. At this time, any artillery fire bombarded Mengji was blocked by the barrier. A voice rang out in the all-channel broadcast. Attention, the behemoth has deployed the anti-membrane. Stop the artillery coverage. In the team channel, Kang Shun's sighing voice rang out. Anti-membrane. If it weren't for the high-level behemoths that would deploy the anti-membrane, we wouldn't have to build mechas at all, and we could kill these things with the existing weapon systems. Luo Yang nodded imperceptibly. In the behemoth common sense class, the teacher said that high-level behemoths would deploy anti-membranes. This barrier will not only block all attacks of all natures except Yuanli, but can even rebound damage. This is why mecha masters need to practice visualization. If the attack is not formed by Yuanli, it can't penetrate the anti-membrane at all, and can't hurt the behemoth. Moreover, the higher the level of the behemoth, the thicker the anti-membrane, and a certain amount of Yuanli is required to penetrate it. This is the current situation facing mankind. P.S. Please vote in various ways, and please protect me. Nubis Chapter 144, Total Defeat. Liu Heyo, Zhang Yu, follow me. Wu Jin, the captain of the 3rd team of the 2nd class, controlled the mecha and strode forward. The earth shook. 3 mechas, like giant spirits, stepped on the trees, dispersed, and surrounded the giant beast Mengji. 2 team members, the mechas formed seals, and released one after another flaming pythons. Number 12 Mystical Art, Fire Python. The flames transformed by the elemental force condensed into a shape, emitting high temperature and blazing flames. Moreover, the more there are fire pythons, the greater their power. This is because Liu Wu and Zhang Yu use this mysterious art at the same time. 9 flaming pythons swam away, and the elemental force flames did not ignite the grass and trees along the way, but those dead bodies would burn violently and turn into ashes if they were touched by a spark. On the other side, Captain Woojin also used the mysterious art. As the mecha formed seals, the temperature of the nearby rose sharply, and the water evaporated, forming pieces of white smoke. In that piece of white smoke, orange-red flames continued to appear out of thin air. One flame after another, whistling and gathering together, formed a fire dragon entrenched in the mecha. Number 19 Mystical Art, Flame Dragon. Because Mengji has the ability to control ice and control corpses, the overall attribute is biased towards the cold side. Therefore, both Woojin and the team members used flame-type mystical arts. This is more targeted at Mengji. Mengji was not idle either. When the 3 mechas formed seals and released mystical arts, it also controlled the army of corpses to condense into a giant again, staggering towards one of the mystical machines. At the same time, countless water droplets appeared around Mengji in an instant, and these water droplets exuded a cold breath. They twisted and gathered, deformed, and stretched, condensed water into ice, and turned into ice cones. Then, the flaming fire pythons of the 2 team members were the first to pass through the anti-membrane, and collided with the ice cones driven by Mengzen. At the moment of collision, the ice cones suddenly expanded and exploded, making a series of roars. The ice cones exploded, but the cold and frosty winds that exploded also caused the giant flaming pythons to disappear one after another. All of a sudden, several fire pythons disappeared, but Mengji released another wave of ice cones, so that the remaining few had no chance to approach him. However, with the giant flaming python leading the way, Woojin's mecha pushed with both palms, and the orange-red fire dragon immediately shook its head and tail, and broke through the air. It passed through the anti-membrane, and pounced on the giant beast. Mengji roared fiercely. Suddenly, a gust of ice wind was raised. In this ice wind, the frost condensed into a huge claw, from top to bottom, and slapped the head of the fire dragon. It directly pressed the fire dragon formed by the mysterious art to the ground. The light on the fire dragon flashed, and it exploded violently. The impact blew Mengji's fur back, and sparks burned. After the impact, the anti-membrane was filled with smoke, but the figure of the giant beast still stood. Woojin encouraged, "Don't lose heart, this is finally a good start, as long as we..." Suddenly, a black shadow blasted out from the anti-membrane at high speed, drew an arc, and passed over the top of Woojin and other 3 main battle mechas. It fell behind the battle line. When the thick smoke wrapped around the black shadow was blown away by the wind, it was seen that it was a sky blue ice ball. It fell like a cannonball. It hit a body next to Chen Dingsheng. The Zhuangji, who was using a flamethrower to clean up the corpse, had no time to react. It was hit by the ice ball. The ice ball shattered, and the frost spread, covering the outer armor of the body in an instant. In the cab, the female driver named Shishi turned green in the face. Constantly reporting, the internal temperature of the mecha dropped sharply, and the energy furnace has stopped running. The temperature in the cab has dropped, 0 degrees, -10 degrees, 20 in the team channel. Woojin shouted out, "Try to get out of emergency." Shishi kept tapping a button on the command console, but the instrument always showed fault. At this moment, the armor behind the cab arched up with a bang, forming a bulge. Then the armor broke into pieces, opening like petals. From the stamen, an ice cone formed by condensed frost quickly stabbed over. Shishi only had time to scream. The sharp cone directly pierced through the seat and body, crashed out of the panoramic window of the mecha, and hung on the outside of the mecha's head. And sharp cones like this appeared all over the mecha, and they had completely destroyed the inside of the body. Death is imminent. Chen Dingsheng's mind suddenly went blank. Then he screamed. He unconsciously controlled the mecha to turn around and run towards the Great Lakes and the direction of the dungeon. "I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Let me go back. Let me go back to the dungeon. Please." Chen Dingsheng's voice sounded in the full channel broadcast. At the same time, in the anti-membrane, a smile appeared in the eyes of the giant beast Mengji. Even his lips were slightly raised. Suddenly, thin frost fly wheels flashed and whizzed towards Chen Dingsheng's mecha. On the Great Lakes defense line, Luo Yan's pupils dilated slightly. In the panoramic window, he saw Sheng's mecha being cut by high-speed rotating frost flywheels. Head, arms, body, legs. Every part was cut into several pieces and quickly frozen, turned into ice cubes, and fell heavily into the forest. On the screen of the second squad and the third team, the life signs of the two mecha masters Sheng and Shishi had disappeared. The body also flashed red, indicating a state of serious damage. In just a blink of an eye, two mechas and two mecha masters were lost. Even though Luo Yan was used to seeing life and death, at this moment, he was also a little stuffy in his chest due to the death in front of him. Shishi. In the third team, Liu Hao shouted and recklessly drove the mecha towards the giant beast in the anti-membrane. He and the driver Shishi were in a relationship and had decided to get married during the new year this year. Unexpectedly, today, lovers died on the battlefield. In his passion, Liu Hao forgot the principle that he could not act alone when facing a behemoth. Captain Wujin's face changed and he shouted in the team channel, "Liu Hao, calm down. Don't go over there." But at this moment, another team member next to him, Zhang Yu, exclaimed. It turned out that the zombie giant controlled by Meng Ji before pounced on the mecha, and those corpses were densely covered on the mecha like insects. Moreover, they also drilled into the gaps of the mecha, bit off the wires, and destroyed the parts. The mecha was constantly emitting electric fire, and its activities became obviously sluggish. Guangling City. In the command center of the Surface Exploration Corps, Zheng, standing on the bridge, looked at the battle situation on the big screen and said in a deep voice, "Let the three teams retreat. Let Liang Jian's team fill in." At this moment, the radar alarm sounded. A radar soldier shouted, "Two more behemoth signals have been found. We will enter the battlefield in 15 minutes. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.